By the time I pulled into the Blue Heron Motor Lodge, the funeral chairs were stacked against the office windows. Rain silvered the parking lot. White lilies leaned out of 2 black trash bags beside the dumpster, their stems tied with blue ribbon. Somebody had left a paper plate on the hood of Owen's truck, 3 cubes of cheddar sweating beneath plastic wrap. I checked the dashboard clock. 4:18 p.m. Dad's funeral was supposed to be tomorrow at 11. My mother came through the office door carrying a cardboard box full of sympathy cards. She stopped when she saw me in uniform. Her eyes moved over my jacket, my ribbons, the garment bag hanging from my hand. For half a second, she looked frightened. "Where is everybody?" I asked. "Oh, Mara, where's Dad?" Her mouth tightened as if I had asked something unreasonable. "We had the service this morning." I stared at her. "The Army brought you home too late," she said. "What did you expect us to do? Keep your father waiting too?" The rain ticked against the brim of my cap. Behind her, someone had written, "Warren Vance." A life well lived on the motel's breakfast room chalkboard. The word Warren was smudged, and the final D in lived had been squeezed in sideways. What I couldn't understand then, and what would keep me awake for months, wasn't why they had buried my father without me. It was why nobody had called while I was driving 600 miles to say they were doing it. My mother shifted the box against her hip. "You're getting soaked. I've been wet before." "I can see that." That was Elaine Vance. If you arrived with a knife in your ribs, she'd tell you not to drip on the rug. People mistook that quality for toughness because she said hard things without raising her voice. Dad used to call her practical. Owen called her a lot of things, but only when she wasn't in the room. I set down my garment bag. The funeral was scheduled for tomorrow. It was scheduled for whenever the funeral home could accommodate us. The notice said tomorrow. Plans changed. When? Tuesday. It was Thursday. I looked at the motel office, then at the empty spaces where funeral guests had parked. I spoke to Owen Tuesday night. He had enough on him. So did I. He was here. There it was. Not an accusation, exactly. More like a measurement. Owen had been here. I had not. The reasons were decoration. My mother started toward the office. "Mom." She stopped, but didn't turn around. Did Dad know I was coming? The box sagged in her arms. A sympathy card slipped free and landed face down in a shallow puddle. He was unconscious most of the last day. That's not what I asked. She bent to pick up the card. "I told him you were trying." Trying. A word people use when they want your effort to sound like failure. I followed her inside. The lobby smelled like wet carpet, burned coffee, and funeral flowers. Dad had built the front counter himself in 1989, back when the Blue Heron was 12 rooms, a gravel lot, and a swimming pool that turned green every August. He'd sanded the counter's edge smooth with years of leaning on it. I put my palm there without thinking. The breakfast room looked like a party had lost an argument. Half-covered trays lined the buffet, ham biscuits, potato salad, a sheet cake with one corner removed, and "in loving memory" written across the rest in navy icing. Someone had abandoned a styrofoam cup on the windowsill with a lipstick mark the color of a bruise. Corinne was wrapping deviled eggs in foil at the nearest table. She looked up and froze. Owen's wife was a tall woman with a short gray blonde haircut and the permanent alertness of someone who had married into our family and realized too late that every conversation came with hidden stares. "Mara," she said. "Hey, Corinne." She crossed the room and hugged me before I could decide whether I wanted her to. Her hands were cold. She smelled like onions and the lavender hand cream she kept in her purse. "I'm so sorry." "Which part?" She let go. From the kitchen, something metal hit the floor. Owen appeared in the doorway holding a trash bag and wearing Dad's brown cardigan. The cardigan was too short in the sleeves. Owen had always been broader than Dad, even when we were younger, and he survived mostly on gas station burritos and offended innocents. "Jesus," he said. "Not quite." He dropped the bag and came around the table. He hesitated before hugging me, which made the hug worse. His cheek was rough against mine. "You made good time," he said. "I thought I was making it in time." His arms loosened. I stepped back. "You moved the funeral Tuesday." Owen glanced at Mom. That glance answered more than he did. "Mara, it got complicated." "Funeral scheduling?" "The tournament starts tomorrow," Mom said, placing the sympathy cards on the counter. "We're full through Sunday." I waited for one of them to laugh. Not because it was funny, because sometimes people laughed when they heard themselves clearly. Nobody did. "You buried Dad early for a fishing tournament." "We did not bury him," Mom said. "He was cremated." Corinne shut her eyes. Mom continued, "And we didn't do anything for a tournament. Reverend Pike had an opening. The funeral home had already prepared everything. People were in town. I wasn't. You were in Virginia. I was driving from Virginia. At the time the decision had to be made, you were still overseas. I landed Monday. But we didn't know whether your leave would be approved until the last minute. My leave was approved Sunday. You said there could be travel problems. There were travel problems. My flight out of Frankfurt was delayed. My connection got canceled, and I still got here a day before the funeral I was told we were having." Owen rubbed the back of his neck. "We should have called. Yes. It was chaos." "No. Chaos is when nobody knows what's happening. You all knew." Mom began arranging the sympathy cards into 2 neat stacks, opened and unopened. Even grief needed filing. "We made a decision," she said. "You can dislike it without turning this into an attack." I could hear my pulse, but my voice came out level. It usually did. 22 years in the Army had taught me that volume wasn't control. The loudest person in a room was often the one who had lost it first. "I want to see Dad's ashes." Nobody moved. "Where are they?" Owen looked down at the cardigan. He picked at a loose thread near one button. Corinne said, "Elaine." Mom's shoulders rose and settled. We scattered them after the service. I actually smiled. It was small and automatic, the expression you make when somebody hands you a bill with the decimal point in the wrong place. "Today? Your father wanted the lake. You scattered all of them?" That was his wish. I know it was his wish. I was there when he said it. He said all 4 of us should take the boat beyond the marker and scatter them at sunset. It was too windy for the boat, so you used the dock. We adapted. That word nearly did what the others hadn't. Adapted. A word from my world, lifted clean and used to make me sound unreasonable for expecting my family to wait 24 hours. I took off my cap and placed it on the table beside the deviled eggs. There was rain in my hair. Mom watched one drop fall onto the white tablecloth. "Did you play him my messages?" I asked. Her eyes flicked toward me. That was all. I had sent a voice message almost every night once Dad became too weak to hold the phone. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever I could steal. I told him about the irritating lieutenant colonel who pronounced cash as cache. I described the fox that slept behind our supply building. I reminded him of the summer Owen tried to fix the pool filter with a shop vacuum and blew algae across 3 parked cars. Dad couldn't answer, but Mom said she played every message. "Mara," she began, "did you?" He was sleeping so much. "Did you play any of them?" "I played some." "How many?" "I don't know." I looked at Owen. "Did you?" He swallowed. "I didn't know you were sending them." Mom made a sharp little sound. "This is exactly what I was afraid of." I turned to her. "What were you afraid of? That you'd arrive exhausted and make everything uglier." Corinne pulled the foil too hard across the plate. It tore with a dry crack. Mom's face changed then, just slightly. The hardness went out of her mouth, and for a second I saw how old she looked. She was 68, but grief had added something blunt around her eyes. I wanted that to matter. I wanted to walk around the table, hold her, and let both of us be ruined in the same direction. Then she pointed at the floor. "Your boots are tracking water." I looked down at the dark prints I'd left across the breakfast room tile. "Sorry," I said. I went to the supply closet, found the yellow mop bucket, and filled it at the utility sink. Corinne followed me. "You don't have to do that." "Yes, I do. Apparently I'm making things uglier." Mara, it's okay. No, it isn't. I wrung out the mop. Then why didn't you call me? She leaned against the door frame, both arms folded tight across herself. I told Owen to, and he said he would. From the breakfast room, Owen said, I can hear you. Good, Corinne called back. That surprised me enough that I looked at her. Corinne's eyes were wet, but her voice stayed even. He kept saying he'd call after we confirmed with the funeral home, then after Reverend Pike called back, then after your mother talked to the caterer. By the time everything was confirmed, you were already on the road. My phone works on roads. I know. Did you think I'd turn around? No. Did you think I'd come here and not notice? She looked toward the doorway. I think they hoped you'd arrive tired enough to accept it. There are sentences that feel cruel because they are cruel. Others hurt because someone finally says the thing everybody has been handling with oven mitts. I pushed the mop over my own footprints. Owen came into the hall. Can I talk to my sister alone? Corinne unfolded her arms. You've had 2 days to talk to your sister. Corinne, I'm going home. She looked at me. There's soup in your parents' refrigerator. I made it yesterday. Elaine will say she made it because she added salt. Under other circumstances, I might have laughed. She took her coat from the hook and left through the side door. Owen watched it close. She's angry at everybody. She seems pretty specific. He shoved his hands into the cardigan pockets. I screwed up. I waited. I should have called you. Yes. I thought Mom had. Did she tell you she had? No. So you didn't think she had. You hoped she had. His jaw moved. Dad did that when he was trying not to swear. The motel's in trouble, Owen said. I stared at him, mop handle in both hands. Dad died. I know that. Do you? The tournament weekend covers almost a month of winter losses. If we'd canceled the bookings, we would have had to issue refunds, and then there was the reception, and Mom was barely functioning. She scheduled a caterer. That is how she functions. It was such a true description of our mother that neither of us spoke for a moment. Owen stepped closer. Dad went fast at the end. Faster than anybody expected. Mom was out of her mind, even if she didn't look it. And you? I was trying to keep everything from falling apart. I looked around the supply closet. Every shelf had a strip of masking tape in my handwriting. Paper goods, bulbs, plumbing, room amenities. I had labeled them during Christmas leave 7 years earlier after Mom complained that nobody could find anything. You always think that's what you're doing, I said. His face tightened. What does that mean? It means things keep falling apart in ways that benefit you. He stepped back as if I'd shoved him. I finished the floor, rinsed the mop, and emptied the gray water. Then I retrieved my cap and garment bag. Mom was behind the front desk opening envelopes. She had a legal pad beside her and was writing down the amounts of condolence checks. Where are you going? She asked. A hotel. We own a motel. You're full. We kept room 12 for you. Of course they had. Room 12 was the one beside the ice machine, with the bathroom fan that sounded like a helicopter swallowing a wrench. I won't need it. Mara, don't be theatrical. I set my room key on the counter. It was an actual brass key, not a card, attached to a blue plastic diamond stamped 12. I drove through the night because I thought Dad was waiting for me. Her pen stopped moving. He wasn't, she said quietly. No, but I thought you were. For once, my mother didn't have a practical answer. I picked up my bag and walked outside. Owen called my name from the doorway, but I kept going. All my adult life, leaving had been the part everybody noticed. Uniform on, duffel packed, car pointed toward an airport. They never counted the returns because they believed those belonged to them. That night, I drove past the first 3 hotels without stopping. At the 4th, I pulled into the lot, shut off the engine, and sat with both hands on the wheel. Dad's last unheard message was still on my phone, recorded 9 days before he died. I had ended it the way I ended every call home. Hang in there, Dad. I'll be back. In the dark car, I finally understood that a promise could be true 100 times and still be used against you on the 101st. I played the message anyway. My own voice filled the car, too bright and careful. "Hey, Dad, it's Tuesday over here, which means it's still Monday for you, so technically I get to complain about Monday twice." I heard myself tell him about a forklift with a bad hydraulic line, a captain who had requisitioned 48 folding tables and nowhere to put them, a fox that had stolen one of my gloves. I paused after each joke as if I could leave space for his laugh. Near the end, my voice changed. "Mom says you're sleeping a lot. That's okay. You rest. I'm working the leave request, but don't start worrying about that. My people have it covered." My people. I stopped the recording before I reached the promise again. The motel clerk watched me through the glass doors while I cried. He was a bald man in a burgundy vest, and he had the decency to become intensely interested in stapling something. After a while, he turned off the vacancy sign. Red light vanished from the hood of my rental car. I checked in under my own name and carried my garment bag to the 3rd floor. The room had a bedspread patterned with brown squares and a framed photograph of a rowboat nobody had ever used. I hung my uniform in the bathroom so the steam from the shower could pull out the wrinkles. That was what my father had taught me before my first formal inspection. Shut the door, run the water hot, let gravity do some of the work. Dad had never served. He'd learned it selling work clothes at a department store before he bought the blue Heron. He could make any practical advice sound inherited from 5 generations of Vance men, even if he'd read it on a bottle. My phone vibrated on the bathroom counter. "Owen, please tell me where you are." Then, "Owen, Mom says not to bother you." Then, 30 seconds later, "Owen, that means she wants me to bother you." I turned the phone face down. The shower ran until the mirror disappeared. I stood beneath it without washing anything, one hand braced against the wall. My hip had locked during the drive, a deep grinding pain that traveled into my lower back. The Army had given it a diagnosis with too many syllables and a physical therapist named Brooks who enjoyed saying, "Discomfort is information." Discomfort had been sending me information for 8 years. I'd mostly marked it unread. When I came out, I had 5 missed calls. 3 from Owen, 1 from Mom, and 1 from Denise Holloway. Denise had served with me twice, once in Kuwait and once in a logistics unit in Kentucky, where we discovered that shared irritation could become friendship if properly maintained. She'd retired 3 years earlier and now lived outside Roanoke in a house she kept threatening to paint. Her voicemail was 9 seconds long. "Call me before you do something disciplined and stupid." I sat on the edge of the bed and called. She answered, "How stupid? I'm in a hotel." "Good start. Are you alone?" "Yes. Have you eaten?" "There were funeral deviled eggs. Did you eat one?" "No." "Then there were not funeral deviled eggs. There were merely deviled eggs in your vicinity." I lay back across the bed, still wrapped in a towel. "They held the funeral this morning." There was a silence on her end. Denise was good at silence. She didn't rush to cover it just because somebody else might fall into it. "You were told tomorrow," she said. "Yes." "And nobody notified you?" "No." "Who do you want me to kill?" "No one." "Fine. Injure?" "Denise, I'm not promising quality work. My shoulder's bad." A laugh got out of me, crooked and painful. She let me have it. Then she said, "Did you see your dad? He was cremated. Did you get the ashes?" They scattered them. This silence was different. "All of them?" she asked. "That's what Mom said." "Where is your mother right now?" "Probably entering condolence checks into a spreadsheet. I'm revising my answer. I'm not going back tonight." "Good. I leave Saturday." "Also good. I might leave tomorrow." "That could be good." "Depends why." I stared at the ceiling. The smoke detector had been wrapped with a strip of yellowing tape. "If I leave tomorrow, it means they were right," I said. "I showed up late, made it ugly, and left." "No. It means you arrived for an event they secretly moved. They'll tell it differently. They always do." That landed too cleanly. Denise knew my family mostly through interrupted plans. She knew about the Christmas I drove 9 hours after a training exercise because the motel boiler had failed. She knew Owen had once called me from a bar bathroom to ask how to calm Mom down after he leased a truck without reading the terms. She knew I'd spent 14 days of convalescent leave repainting rooms because Elaine said hired painters lacked pride. I had told those stories as jokes. Denise had been polite enough to laugh until I stopped. "Don't make a decision tonight," she said. "Drink water. Take whatever anti-inflammatory you're pretending you don't need. Order food that had to pass through a licensed kitchen." "Yes, Sergeant. You outranked me. Not in common sense." "Correct. Call me in the morning." After we hung up, I ordered a turkey sandwich and fries. I ate half while standing at the window in the hotel robe, watching rain blur the highway. At 10:30, Mom texted, "Your father's blue suit is in room 12. The funeral home returned it. You should take it since Owen can't wear it." I read the message 3 times. No hello. No where are you? No I'm sorry. She had found an item without an assigned shelf and decided I was the shelf. A second message arrived. Also his dress shoes. They're nearly new. I turned the phone off. Sleep came in 10-minute segments. In one of them, Dad was behind the motel front desk, ringing the brass service bell even though I was standing right in front of him. In another, I was trying to iron my uniform while wearing it. At 3, I gave up and sat by the window with the room's paper cup of coffee. The storm moved east before dawn. I checked out just after 6. My uniform stayed in the garment bag. I wore jeans, a gray sweatshirt, and running shoes, though running had become more of an allegation than an activity. The Blue Heron's parking lot was quiet when I returned. A fisherman in chest waders stood outside room 6 smoking a cigarette. He nodded at me as if we shared an occupation. The office door was unlocked. It was always unlocked once Dad woke up, even before the official opening time. He used to say desperate people needed coffee before policies. I found Owen asleep in the desk chair with his feet on the wastebasket. Dad's cardigan was buttoned wrong. I set my room key on the counter again. His eyes opened. "You came back. I need my things." He dropped his feet. "Right. Yeah? Why are you sleeping here?" Mom took one of her pills, and somebody had to cover the desk. "What pills?" "Just a sleeping pill." "She doesn't take sleeping pills." "She does now." He looked terrible. There were purple hollows beneath his eyes, and a crescent of dried frosting clung to his cuff. Grief made him look younger and older at once. It made me want to protect him, which irritated me. He stood and stretched. "Coffee?" "No. It's fresh. You made it?" I resent the tone. I went around the counter and poured a cup. The coffee was weak enough to read through, but I drank it. Owen watched me over the rim of his own mug. She didn't mean it. "Which thing?" "The army bringing you home too late." She seemed to. She hasn't slept. Mom says what she means when she hasn't slept. She just loses the energy to decorate it. He winced. She was mad at Dad. Why? Because he waited too long to tell us how bad it was. My cup stopped halfway to my mouth. He knew. He knew enough. Since when? End of May, maybe. It was July. Mom said the first tests were in June. I know. You told me the same thing. Because that's what they wanted me to tell you. I put the mug down carefully. Dad wanted you to lie? He didn't call it lying. He said you were overseas, you had your retirement packet in, and there was nothing you could do from Germany except worry. I could have requested leave. He didn't want you burning leave when you were that close to getting out. He was dying. We didn't know how fast. You knew it was pancreatic cancer. Owen looked toward the front windows. Outside, the fisherman crushed his cigarette beneath one rubber boot. Mom said if we told you, you'd come charging home and start taking over. That's an interesting way to describe showing up. She was scared. So she kept me away, then blamed me for being gone. I didn't say it made sense. You helped her. His jaw tightened. Dad asked me to. Dad had a way of making a request sound small. Pick up filters for the pool. Check the west gutter. Don't tell your sister I'm dying until she can't get here in time. I took my coffee to the breakfast room. The sympathy cards were gone from the counter. But the legal pad remained. Mom had totaled the checks at the bottom and drawn 2 lines beneath the number. The wet card from the parking lot lay open near the cash register to dry. It was from Mr. and Mrs. Dougherty, who had stayed at the Blue Heron every anniversary for 26 years. I recognized the handwriting because I had mailed them a Christmas card every December on my parents' behalf. Owen followed me. "He talked about you," he said. I kept my back to him. At the end, he asked what time it was in Germany. I told him. He asked if you were awake. "What did you say?" "That you were probably working." "I was probably working." He smiled. I closed the card. Was he conscious when I sent the message Tuesday? I don't know which message. The one about the forklift. Owen rubbed his face. Maybe. He was in and out. Mom said she played them. She might have. She didn't. You don't know that. She told me. He dropped his hand. When? Last night. In between letting me know I'd missed the funeral and letting me know I'd stained the floor. Owen stared toward the kitchen. For the first time since I arrived, his anger pointed somewhere besides himself. Room 12 smelled of industrial lemon cleaner. My civilian suitcase stood on the luggage rack, exactly where I'd left it before my last assignment. I kept clothes at the motel because there had always been another visit coming. Dad's suit lay across the bed in a clear plastic funeral home bag. His shoes rested beneath it, polished and tied together by their laces. I touched the sleeve. The suit had been on him yesterday morning. That fact traveled through my hand so quickly, I pulled back. On the dresser, Mom had placed a cardboard box labeled Mara, Take. Inside were Dad's old electric razor, 3 neckties, a bottle of aftershave, and the wooden cribbage board we used every time I came home. I lifted the board. 2 red pegs and 2 blue pegs rattled inside. Dad always took red. He said it moved faster. Beneath the board was a motel maintenance list in his handwriting. Room 3 faucet, paint dock rail, ice machine noise. Remind M about West Gutter. Owen stood in the doorway. "What's the West Gutter?" I asked. He glanced at the paper. "No idea." "He reminded you?" "I guess he meant you." Of course he did. Even dying, Dad had left me a task. I put the maintenance list back in the box, then removed the cribbage board and set it on the dresser. "You don't want that?" Owen asked. "I do." "Then take it. Not like this." I zipped my suitcase. The funeral suit stayed on the bed. So did the shoes, the razor, the ties, the aftershave, and the little board with Dad's red pegs waiting inside. When I carried my suitcase through the lobby, the desk phone began to ring. Owen reached for it. I did too. Our hands stopped over the receiver. For 22 years, every ringing phone in that building had sounded like a duty. I pulled my hand back. Owen answered on the 4th ring. "Blue Heron Motor Lodge," he said, watching me. "How can I help you?" I picked up my bag and walked out before either of us could pretend that question was meant for me. The lake was behind the last row of rooms. I took the path between room 11 and the vending machine, dragging my suitcase over cracked concrete until the wheels caught in the grass. Dad had laid the path himself with flat river stones. Half of them had sunk crooked, so walking it required either attention or good ankles. I had one of those. The dock looked smaller than I remembered. Everything did when nobody was standing on it. A damp breeze moved across the water. Gray clouds hung low enough to erase the opposite shore. The motel's aluminum fishing boat knocked gently against its bumpers, still tied beneath the "Do not use without life jackets" sign Dad had painted. At the end of the dock, a few pale streaks clung between the boards. I crouched and touched one. It dissolved beneath my fingertip. Ash, maybe. Sand, maybe. Dad had spent 40 years tracking both into the motel. I sat with my shoes above the water. He and I used to play cribbage out there when the office was slow. He cheated by talking during my count, then acted shocked whenever I lost track. Owen hated the game because Dad took too long to shuffle. Mom hated it because the cards blew into the lake. I loved it because it was one of the few things Dad and I did that didn't end with him handing me a wrench. The office door slammed behind me. Mom came down the path in a pale blue robe and gardening clogs. Her hair was flattened on one side. She looked like someone who had lost her husband, taken a sleeping pill, and still remembered to be angry before coffee. "You're leaving," she said. "Yes. Your compassionate leave is 10 days. Correct. So you're going back to the Army. I'm going back to Virginia." "That's not what I asked." I looked at the water. It usually isn't. She stepped onto the dock. The boards flexed beneath her weight. "You could stay through the weekend. To do what?" "Be with your family. My family held Dad's funeral before I arrived." Her clogs slapped against the wood as she came closer. "Are you going to repeat that every time I speak?" "I don't know." "How many times are you planning to pretend it didn't happen?" She folded her arms. The robe had little white anchors printed on it. Dad bought it for her from a hotel supplier because the Blue Heron got a bulk discount. "I was managing a dying man," she said. "You have no idea what these last weeks were like. You made sure of that. He didn't want you told. He didn't want me told how bad it was. Did he also ask you to move his funeral?" She looked past me toward the lake. "That was my decision." "Did he ask you not to play my messages?" He couldn't respond. That wasn't a requirement. "You talked too fast." He was confused. "So you decided hearing my voice would burden him." I decided he needed rest. He had plenty of that coming. She flinched. I regretted it immediately, which made me angrier. Mom could say something that split you down the middle and remain practical. I could say one hard thing and spend the night putting it back in my mouth. She sat beside me, leaving a full board between us. For a while, neither of us spoke. A heron stood in the reeds near the cove, neck folded into itself. Dad had named every heron Walter. It did not matter if there were 3 at once. They were all Walter. I was furious with him, Mom said. For dying? For knowing. The breeze lifted the edge of her robe. She pinned it beneath one knee. He had pain before Memorial Day. He told me it was indigestion. Then his back started hurting, but he said he'd pulled something. By the time I got him to the doctor, he already suspected. He'd been reading about it on that tablet you gave him. Why didn't you call me after the diagnosis? He begged me not to. And that's the first time you ever ignored what was best for someone because they begged? Her mouth thinned. You think you're the only one who knew him, she said. You think because he smiled when you called, you had some special understanding. I don't think that. Yes, you do. You got the pleasant version. He saved it for you because you were far away. I got the pain. I got the bathroom floor at 2 a.m. I got him refusing medication because it made him feel foggy. I got him telling me not to tell you, then asking every day whether you'd called. That last part entered quietly. He asked? Of course he asked. And you still didn't play the messages. Sometimes I did. How many? I don't know, Mara. I wasn't maintaining a log. She said it like a joke, but neither of us laughed. I watched the herons step through the reeds. You could have sent one text yesterday. Yes. The answer came so plainly that I turned toward her. She rubbed her thumb along a split in the dock rail. I could have. Why didn't you? Because I was tired of your arrival determining everything. I waited. Every decision became about whether Mara could get leave, whether Mara's flight landed, whether Mara approved. Your father wouldn't let us replace a toilet without asking what brand you recommended. Owen wouldn't answer a question if he could put it off until you called. Even dying, Warren was worried about interrupting your retirement. That's not my fault. I didn't say it was. You're punishing me for being the person you ask. Her head snapped toward me. I did not punish you. You buried my father without me. I held a service for my husband, so the fishing guests could keep their rooms. We have bills whether he's dead or not. That was the ugliest thing about practical people. Sometimes they were right in the middle of being cruel. Mom stood. You chose a life where you leave, she said. The rest of us learned how not to wait. She walked back toward the motel, careful on the uneven stones. I stayed until the heron lifted from the reeds and crossed the lake. Then I put my suitcase in the rental car and drove south. At the first gas station, I bought coffee, beef jerky, and a bottle of anti-inflammatory tablets. I took 2 in the parking lot and heard Denise tell me discomfort was information. Denise had never said that. Brooks had. Grief was already rearranging voices. Owen called before I reached the interstate. I let it ring. Corinne called 20 minutes later. I answered through the car speakers. "Are you driving?" she asked. "Yes. Did you sleep?" "A little." "That means no." "It means a little." She was quiet. I heard a car door close on her end. "I left him," she said. My hands tightened on the wheel. "Left Owen?" "I went to my sister's last night. I'm not divorcing him. At least I don't think I am. I just couldn't watch him spend another hour making your mother's decisions sound unavoidable. You don't need to take my side. I'm not. I'm taking mine." That sounded like something she had practiced. "Elaine told me I had no right to criticize because I'm not a Vance," she said. "After 15 years, apparently I'm still a guest who knows where the spare towels are. I'm sorry, I'm not telling you so you'll fix it." "Good. I mean it, Mara. I know. You said that fast." A green sign announced the interstate entrance. I changed lanes and felt my hip protest. Corinne exhaled. "Owen's ashamed. He should be." But he did sit with Warren the last 3 nights. He changed the sheets. He argued with the hospice nurse about the medication schedule until she threatened to remove him from the room. He wasn't useless. I never said he was. No. You usually say he's doing his best, which is worse. I smiled despite myself. "What was Dad like at the end?" I asked. Her breath caught, tired, funny sometimes. He asked me to turn off a nature documentary because the narrator sounded judgmental. He kept worrying about the ice machine. Of course he did. He asked whether you'd be able to come. "What did you tell him?" "That you were trying." There was that word again. Corinne heard it too. "I'm sorry." "Did he say anything after that?" "He said, 'She always does.'" The highway blurred for a few seconds. I blinked until the lane lines steadied. "Thank you," I said. I don't know if that helped. It didn't. "Okay, but thank you." We stayed on the phone without talking until she said she had reached her sister's apartment. Before hanging up, she made me promise to stop if my hip got worse. I drove another 2 hours. At a rest area, I parked between an RV and a truck carrying live chickens. The chickens objected to my presence as a group. I walked circles around the picnic tables until the joint loosened, then ate the rest of the beef jerky while facing a vending machine. My phone showed 17 motel notifications. I had installed the reservation software on my personal phone years earlier because Mom once called during an exercise to ask why room 8 had vanished from the booking screen. Every cancellation, new reservation, payment failure, and housekeeping status change still came to me. I opened the app. Rooms 2 and 9 had not been marked clean. A guest had requested late checkout. The card on a 3-night reservation had declined. My fingers moved automatically. Tap the reservation, check the notes, call the number, ask for another card. I stopped before pressing call. The live chicken screamed behind me. I logged out. The app asked whether I was sure. I had always hated software that needed reassurance. I pressed yes. Denise opened her front door before I reached the porch. She wore paint-splattered overalls and held a cordless drill like she'd been expecting either me or a burglar. The left half of her house was cream. The right half was a green so aggressive it seemed to have political ambitions. "You look terrible," she said. "Your house looks worse." That's the spirit. She took my suitcase before I could object and led me inside. A pot of chili simmered on the stove. My father had been dead 4 days. His funeral had happened without me. His ashes were somewhere in a northern lake, and Denise had put shredded cheese in a bowl because she knew I liked too much of it. I sat at her kitchen table. She placed food in front of me, then set the drill beside her napkin. "Why is that here?" I asked. "Emotional support." Halfway through the bowl, my phone rang again. "Mom." I watched her name until the screen went dark. A voicemail appeared. I put it on speaker. Mara, the commercial washer is making that grinding sound again. Owen says he doesn't remember what you did last time. Call when you get this. Denise looked at me. What grinding sound? She asked. The pump jams when a coin slips past the trap. Can Owen fix it? Yes. Can your mother? Yes. Are you going to call? My hand was already around the phone. I saw Dad's maintenance list. Paint dock rail. Ice machine noise. Remind M about West Gutter. I set the phone down. No, I said. The words sounded too small to change anything. Then the phone rang again, and I let it. On the fourth ring, Denise reached across the table and turned my phone face down. You know, she said, they used to make phones with cords. You could rip those out of the wall. Very therapeutic. You had to commit. The ringing stopped. A message appeared, then another. Mom, the washer is full of water. Mom, we have 32 checkouts tomorrow. I typed, Miller Appliance Repair opens at 7. Ask for Ray. He knows the machine. Her reply came before I set the phone down. I didn't ask for a repairman. I asked what you did last time. I had wedged a folded washcloth beneath the drain hose, removed the pump housing, and extracted a Canadian quarter, 2 bobby pins, and the metal clasp from somebody's bathing suit. It had taken 4 hours and ruined my only free Saturday that month. I typed, I called Ray. Mom sent 3 dots, then erased them. 3 dots again. This is not the time to make a point. I read it aloud. Denise scraped the last of her chili from the bowl. She's right. I looked at her. The time to make this point was probably 2006. Helpful. I'm retired. Helpfulness is optional. I set the phone aside. At 7 the next morning, Denise found me beneath her kitchen sink, tightening the faucet connection. She stood over me in a robe and 1 sock. What are you doing? You had a leak. I had a drip. Drips become leaks, and guests become maintenance personnel, apparently. I slid out and sat on the floor. It was keeping me awake. My bedroom is upstairs. I could hear it. You could hear a mouse regretting a personal decision. She held out her hand for the wrench. I gave it to her. If you need to earn breakfast, she said, the price is 1 normal conversation. I fixed your faucet. That was not on the menu. She made coffee while I wiped water from the cabinet. Her kitchen drawers were painted 3 different shades of yellow because she kept changing her mind. This offended me more than it should have. What are you doing when your orders end? She asked. I'll figure it out. That phrase means you have a binder. I have several folders. Of course you do. My retirement date was 23 days away. Before Dad got sick, or before anybody admitted he was sick, I had planned to spend 2 months at the motel. I was going to rebuild the dock rail, replace the carpet in rooms 4 through 7, and help Owen move the reservation system to a new server. After that, I would find a job within driving distance. I had not told Mom about the plan because I wanted to surprise her. I hadn't told Denise because she would have asked why my retirement looked exactly like more work. I can stay in temporary lodging until the end of the month, I said, and then find an apartment. Where? Somewhere. She handed me a mug. Strong opening position. I'm not moving into your guest room. I didn't invite you. You made too much chili. I always make too much chili. It's how I intimidate winter. It was July. She opened a drawer and pulled out a folded real estate flyer. The duplex 2 streets over is for rent. 1 bedroom, fenced patio, ugly carpet. The owner is a respiratory therapist, so she has realistic expectations about human beings. You carry rental listings in your kitchen? I picked it up yesterday. Before I arrived? After you called from the hotel? That bothered me in a way kindness sometimes did. An emergency I could manage. A place set aside for me felt dangerous. I don't know if I want to stay here, I said. Here meaning Roanoke or here meaning anywhere. Normal conversation over. She let me retreat. I reported to the installation 2 days before my compassionate leave ended because sitting still had started to feel like an unauthorized absence. The gate guard checked my identification, looked at the date beneath my photograph, and said, "Almost free, Master Sergeant." That's the rumor. My office was in a low brick building that always smelled faintly of toner and floor wax. Half the desks were empty. Summer leave season. A cardboard sign over my old cubicle read, Vance Retirement Countdown, 21 days, though someone had crossed out 21 and written old in black marker. Sergeant First Class Alvarez looked up from his computer. Top? I'm not your top anymore. You're standing in the building. That makes you everybody's problem. He came around the desk and hugged me. Alvarez had worked for me for 3 years and still behaved as if affection were an ambush tactic. I heard about your dad, he said. I'm sorry. Thank you. You weren't supposed to be back. I had appointments. You had appointments next week. I moved them. He looked at me for a moment, then nodded toward my cubicle. We boxed your stuff. Already? The lieutenant colonel wants the space. He has 6 empty offices. He wants this particular 8 feet. My box contained 2 coffee mugs, a stapler I had purchased with my own money, a photograph of my platoon in Kuwait, and an engraved wooden plaque misspelling my first name as Maria. Alvarez had tried to throw the plaque away twice. I kept it because nothing expressed military appreciation like permanently carving the wrong woman. He leaned against the desk while I sorted through it. Are you still doing the retirement ceremony? He asked. No, he's going to ask. He can ask. He ordered a cake. He can eat it. It has your rank on it. Then it outranks the lieutenant colonel. He has to salute it. Alvarez laughed, but his eyes stayed worried. The Army had offered me a theater with a flag line, a narrator, a shadow box, and a speech about sacrifice. None of it was false. That was the problem. I had sacrificed. People had noticed. They just tended to notice in approved language at scheduled times near sheet cake. I signed my final equipment hand receipt and spent 40 minutes locating a radio pouch I had turned in 6 months earlier. The supply clerk found it exactly where I said it would be, then asked me to sign a form acknowledging that she had found it. After lunch, I sat with a retirement counselor named Mr. Bell, who wore a tie patterned with tiny sailboats. He moved through my paperwork with the solemnity of a man defusing a bomb. Mailing address after separation? I'm changing it. New address? I don't have one yet. He frowned. We need one. Use Denise Holloway's for now. Relationship? Friend, he typed. Emergency contact is Elaine Vance. Is that still correct? The answer rose automatically. Yes. Mom knew my blood type, allergies, insurance number, service number, and where I kept my original birth certificate. She had been my emergency contact since I enlisted. Every form had carried her name. Mr. Bell's fingers weighted above the keyboard. No, I said. Replacement? I gave him Denise's information. He did not look up. To him, a family break was one deleted line and a new phone number. The cursor moved on. Disposition of remains? I stared at the sailboats on his tie. I'm sorry? I asked. In the event of death before processing is complete, your current election authorizes release to your mother. No. He looked up then. Change it to Denise Holloway. You'll need her consent. She'll give it. He slid a form across the desk. I signed beneath a paragraph that turned my body into a shipment. The phrase release of remains sat 3 lines above my name. Mom's sentence came back with perfect clarity. What did you expect us to do? Keep your father waiting too? I pressed hard enough with the pen to dent the copies beneath. Afterward, I went to physical therapy. Brooks was younger than me, though he carried himself like an elderly librarian disappointed by the decline of civilization. He watched me walk 10 feet and said, You've been driving. Yes. How long? Not that long. That is not a unit of measurement recognized by medicine. 600 miles. He took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. At once? There were chickens. Did they provide clinical support? They were judgmental. He put me through stretches, measured my range of motion, and pressed his thumb into the muscle beside my hip until I saw a white flash. Pain? He asked. No. You just attempted to leave your body. Discomfort. Information, he said. I know. He reviewed the scan again. Years of carrying loads had worn the joint unevenly. It wasn't catastrophic. That was another problem. Catastrophic injuries received decisions. Mine received maintenance. You need consistent therapy after retirement, he said. Not occasional visits when you decide limping has become socially noticeable. I can transfer care. Where? I had no answer. He swiveled toward his computer. The civilian rehab clinic near Holloway Avenue takes your coverage. Good aquatic program, strength training, pain management. Holloway? The avenue, not your friend. Unless she owns infrastructure. Denise would claim it. He printed the referral and handed it to me. The clinic was 12 minutes from the duplex on the flyer. I folded the paper and put it in my pocket. Mom called while I was walking to my car. I almost answered. The impulse had nothing to do with the washer. It was the old fear that one day I would let a call ring and discover afterward that the call had been the last chance to hear someone's voice. Dad's last chance had passed while my phone was on and my family was deciding what I could handle. I let it go to voicemail. She didn't mention the washer. Your brother says you've gone back to work, she said. I suppose that tells me where your priorities are. Ray came. The machine is running. He charged $280 for something you could have done in an hour. I hope you're satisfied. A pause. Then, quieter. I found one of your father's shirts in the laundry. Call me. I sat in the car with the referral on my lap. The first part of the message made it easy to stay silent. The last 6 words did not. I called Denise instead. Do you still have that rental flyer? I asked. She did not say, I told you so. Denise had many flaws, but poor timing was not one of them. It's on the refrigerator, she said. I want to see the duplex. Good. I'm not committing. Obviously. And I'll pay my own deposit. Mara, I am not your mother. You don't have to reject things I haven't offered. I closed my eyes. That sounded harsh, she said. It sounded accurate. Those are cousins. Behind her, I heard a paint can open. What color are you using now? I asked. Blue. Over the green. I contain multitudes. You contain primer. Come home and complain in person. Home. She said it casually, meaning her guest room, dinner, a place to put my box from the office. I knew that. Still, my hand tightened around the phone. I'll be there in an hour, I said. When I started the car, Mom's voicemail remained unheard in the notification bar even though I had listened to every word. For the first time, I understood that hearing someone and answering them were 2 different duties. The duplex was the color of old oatmeal. Denise parked at the curb and stared through the windshield. It has restraint. It has mildew. That's shade. Shade can have mildew. The unit sat at the end of a quiet street lined with oak trees and mailboxes shaped like barns. The adjoining half had a red bicycle chained to the porch railing and 6 ceramic frogs arranged along the steps. None of the frogs looked friendly. The owner, Evelyn Parrish, met us at the door wearing navy scrubs and bright orange running shoes. She was in her 50s, compact and so tired she skipped everything people usually say before discussing money. Rent includes trash, not water. No smoking, no aquariums over 20 gallons. I don't have an aquarium, I said. Everybody says that until the tropical fish become emotional support. She led us through the living room. The carpet was brown and had the flattened paths of every piece of furniture that had ever occupied it. The kitchen cabinets were white except for one cream-colored door beneath the sink. The refrigerator hummed with a deep mechanical conviction. I can fix that door, I said. Evelyn looked at it. It closes. It doesn't match. It closes in 2 colors. Denise made a thoughtful sound. I like her. The bedroom faced the backyard. There was a small concrete patio, a patch of grass, and a wooden fence leaning just enough to imply future work. I opened the closet. Empty rod, 4 wire hangers, no shelf. What do you think? Denise asked. I think somebody mounted the smoke detector too close to the vent. About living here. I went to the window. The yard was barely large enough for a folding chair and a grill. I could see the rehab clinic's blue sign through gaps between houses at the next intersection. Evelyn leaned against the doorframe. You don't have to decide today, but a travel nurse is seeing it tonight. I'll take it. Denise looked at me. What? I asked. You made a decision before manufacturing 12 objections. I saw the smoke detector. Evelyn handed me an application from her clipboard. Deposit after approval. I'll run the background check. I have my retirement orders and references. Everyone has references. I'm interested in whether you've cooked meth. I have not. Good. It ruins the range hood. We completed the paperwork at the kitchen counter. Under previous address, I started writing the Blue Heron's address. I had used it as my permanent home for years, no matter where the Army sent me. I stopped after the street number. Problem? Evelyn asked. No. I crossed it out and used the installation's temporary lodging address instead. Denise saw. She did not comment. Evelyn approved me the next morning. I transferred the deposit and signed a 12-month lease from my desk, while Alvarez argued with someone in transportation about the weight of my household goods. I owned less than the Army's minimum estimate. They found that suspicious. Mom called twice during the signing. The second voicemail was just 6 words. Forget it. I threw the shirt out. I called Owen. He answered with, Are you finally calling Mom? No. Did she throw away Dad's shirt? I don't know. She said she did. She didn't. How do you know? Because she's been wearing it. The picture arrived in my head before I could stop it. Dad's blue plaid shirt hanging from Mom's shoulders, the sleeves rolled over her wrists. He wore it every fall when he closed the pool. Why did she say she threw it out? Because you didn't call. That's normal. It is for her. I swiveled away from my computer. Across the office, Alvarez pretended not to listen while listening with his entire spine. How's Corinne? I asked. Still at her sister's. Have you talked to her? I've received instructions. Those aren't the same thing. I'm aware. He sounded exhausted. Behind him, I heard the motel's office bell and Mom say his name. I have to go, he said. Marta didn't come in. Marta doesn't work Thursdays. She switched with somebody. Who? A pause. Owen. I'm looking at the schedule. The housekeeping schedule still lived in a spreadsheet I had designed 9 years earlier. Each month, Mom emailed it to me because the formulas occasionally shifted when she copied rows. I could picture it without opening anything. Did Mom ask Marta to cover the tournament by herself? I asked. She asked her to clean 22 rooms. The motel has 24. 2 are stayovers. Where's Trish? Quit. When? Yesterday. Why? Mom told her folding fitted sheets wasn't advanced mathematics. That sounded exactly like Mom. She insulted people in ways that suggested the real problem was their failure to appreciate the elegance of the insult. Owen. Marta is 63. She says 60. She has said 60 for 4 years. Can you call her? Why? She likes you. I like her. Then talk to her. About what, coming in? No. The word came easier than it had over Chili. He lowered his voice. Mara, we're sold out. You need to hire help. From where? The Magical Funeral Weekend Housekeeper store? Call the temporary staffing company in Belleville. They charge double. Then clean rooms. I'm working the desk. Mom can work the desk. She's not exactly stable. Then close rooms. We can't just close rooms. You asked for options. Those are the options. I asked you to make 1 phone call. To ask a woman I respect to accept treatment I wouldn't accept because my family needs clean bathrooms. You're making it sound terrible. It sounded terrible before I got involved. Mom shouted his name again. Owen exhaled. You know what? Forget it. I'm noticing that's going around. He hung up. 10 minutes later, Marta texted me. I'm sorry about your father. He was a good man except for how he loaded towels. I smiled. Dad packed the washers until the doors had to be shouldered shut. He claimed the machines liked a challenge. Thank you, I wrote. And you're right about the towels. Her typing bubble appeared. Owen says you want me to come in. My face went hot. I called him immediately. He didn't answer. I typed to Marta. I did not ask him to say that. Please don't go in because of me. She replied, I wasn't going to. Then she added a laughing face. I called Owen again. This time he answered. I'm busy. Don't use my name. What? Don't tell people I asked for something when I didn't. I said you thought it would be helpful. You said I wanted her to come in. I was trying to solve the problem. With my relationship. Jesus, Mara, it's housekeeping, not diplomacy. Then you shouldn't need me. He went silent. I could hear Mom talking to a guest. Her voice had transformed into the warm, concerned tone she used with people whose opinion could affect a review site. Owen said, "You don't get to leave us holding everything and then criticize how we hold it. I didn't leave you holding everything. I stopped taking it out of your hands. Same difference from here." "No, it isn't. Dad's dead. Mom's losing it. Corinne won't come home. And you're screening calls like we're telemarketers. You buried him without me. There it is. Yes, there it is." Alvarez stood and quietly walked out of the office. Owen's voice softened. "How long are you going to punish us?" I looked at the lease agreement open on my screen. "I'm not punishing you. What do you call this? Not helping. With what distinction? The motel is your future, remember?" The words stopped him. Mom had said that for years. Whenever I paid for a repair, I was contributing to the family. Whenever decisions were made, the motel was Owen's future. He got the destination. I got the road work. "That isn't fair," he said. "No." I ended the call. Alvarez returned holding 2 vending machine coffees. He set one beside me. "Permission to say something inappropriate? Since when do you ask? Since you became a fragile retiree?" I gave him a look. He sat in the empty cubicle across from mine. "You taught me that if a person is the only thing keeping a bad system running, they aren't fixing the system." I said that about supply requests. "Still. Did Denise call you?" "I don't know Denise. You'd like her. I already fear her." He raised his paper cup. I signed the lease. My last weeks in uniform vanished into signatures, medical records, final dental, equipment turn-in, a briefing about civilian employment delivered by a man who had never held a civilian job. Each completed item received a green check mark in my retirement folder. The lieutenant colonel asked about the ceremony 3 times. On the 4th, he stood beside my cubicle holding a bakery catalog. "Master Sergeant, people want a chance to honor you. They had 22 years. That is a deeply unhelpful answer. I've been practicing." He sighed. "At least let us do a small gathering. No speeches. 1 speech, no receiving line. Fine, no flag line." He looked personally wounded. "Cake? That depends. Did you spell my name correctly?" He glanced at the plaque in my box. "That was not my command," he said. "We compromised on lunch in the conference room. The cake said, 'Congratulations, Mara in blue icing.' Alvarez had added 'Not Maria' beneath it in red gel. The lieutenant colonel gave a 2-minute speech that lasted 11. Someone handed me a folded flag in a triangular display case. Everyone clapped. They meant it. That made it harder. I had spent years thinking the end of my service would feel like stepping through a door. Instead, it felt like a building had gone quiet while I was still inside. Alvarez carried my box to the car. "What are you going to do tomorrow morning?" he asked. "Sleep." He laughed. I didn't. At the duplex, Denise had left a folding chair on the patio and a note taped to the cream cabinet door. "Do not fix until you've sat down." I put the flag on the kitchen counter. The wrong name plaque went beside it. My uniforms hung in the empty bedroom closet, a row of dark jackets facing a blank wall. I sat in the folding chair because Denise would ask. The fence leaned. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere through the wall, my neighbor sneezed, and one of the ceramic frogs toppled from the porch. Nobody needed me. For 3 full minutes, it felt like freedom. On the 4th, it felt like disappearing. I lasted until 8 minutes. Then I went inside and fixed the cabinet door. It needed 1 hinge adjusted. 90 seconds. The cream color still bothered me, but now the gap was even. I unpacked my kitchen box, lined the glasses by height, and arranged the canned food with labels facing forward. By midnight, my retirement papers were filed, my physical therapy exercises were clipped to the refrigerator, and the flag case had been moved 4 times. I slept on an air mattress because my furniture had not arrived. At 04:30, I woke without an alarm and stared at the ceiling. Nobody had scheduled me. Nobody expected a morning report. There was no formation, no staff meeting, no inbox accumulating overnight demands from 3 time zones. I got up and scrubbed the bathroom grout. At 06:15, Denise knocked once and let herself in. She found me kneeling beside the tub with a toothbrush in my hand. "This is upsetting," she said. "I couldn't sleep." "So you attacked mildew?" It was present. She carried 2 coffees in a paper bag into the kitchen. She opened the cabinet beneath the sink, saw the aligned door, and looked at me. "You lasted less than a day. It wasn't level. You're going to have to develop a drug problem like a normal retiree. I drink coffee. I mean something that ruins your credit." She handed me a biscuit wrapped in foil. "Your clinic called. They had a cancellation at 8. I have an appointment next week. You have one today. You rescheduled my medical care? I answered your phone while you were under the sink. That was 3 days ago. I plan ahead. I should have been angry. Instead, I ate the biscuit in the car while she drove. The clinic occupied a converted grocery store. The automatic doors still opened too wide as if expecting shopping carts. Inside, the air smelled like chlorine and eucalyptus. A row of elderly men on stationary bicycles turned their heads in perfect sequence when Denise announced, too loudly, I brought the difficult one. A therapist named Kendra evaluated me. She was 6 feet tall, wore pink glasses, and had no visible interest in my tolerance for pain. "Rate it from 0 to 10, she said. 3. She pressed the outside of my hip. 7. That changed quickly. "You gathered new intelligence." She watched me squat, climb a step, balance on one leg, and walk barefoot down a strip of blue carpet. Without boots, I felt improperly assembled. "You compensate through your left side," she said. "I adapt. You limp. I don't limp." Denise sat in the corner reading a magazine. "She limps. You're not part of this evaluation. I'm collateral. Kendra assigned aquatic therapy twice a week and strength work once a week. She said the goal was to make movement sustainable, not to prove I could endure it." I had heard variations of that sentence before. Sustainable was what people said when they suspected I had mistaken damage for commitment. Afterward, Denise did not drive toward the duplex. "Where are we going?" "To get lunch." "Lunch is not this direction. It is if you're not eating at your house." We turned onto a 2-lane road that climbed away from town. Pines replaced mailboxes. After 10 minutes, she pulled through a wooden gate with switchback written on a plank overhead. Beyond it stood 6 cedar cabins, a low dining hall, and a barn painted the same aggressive green Denise had briefly chosen for her house. "You donated the paint," I said. "They liked it. No one likes that." A broad man in a flour-dusted black t-shirt came out of the dining hall carrying a stock pot. His gray hair was gathered into a short ponytail, and a faded burn scar crossed one forearm. He set the pot on a picnic table. "You're late," he told Denise. "I'm retired. So is time, apparently. This is Mara." He looked at me, then at the way I was favoring my right leg after the evaluation. "Army?" he asked. "Yes." "Recently escaped?" "Yesterday." He held out his hand. "Lyle Chen. I cooked for the Army until I realized civilians also eat." His grip was warm and brief. "What is this place?" I asked. "A place where people come to be outdoors and complain that the outdoors has bugs." Switchback ran short retreats for veterans adjusting to civilian life. "No speeches," Lyle said. "No forced gratitude. Adults slept in cabins, cooked together, walked trails if their knees cooperated, and learned that asking for help did not require filling out a form in triplicate. Mostly," he added, "we keep them fed long enough to stop pretending they're fine." Denise pointed at him. "That. I am fine." Lyle nodded solemnly. "They all arrive saying that. It saves us name tags." Inside the dining hall, 12 tables faced a stone fireplace. Nothing matched. The chairs came from churches, hotels, and at least one dentist's office. A whiteboard listed meal assignments beside names. The bottom half was covered in a grocery list written by 5 different people. Denise had promised to help Lyle repaint the pantry. That was her explanation for bringing me. I didn't believe it, but the pantry walls actually did need paint. They also needed shelves. Cases of canned tomatoes sat directly on the floor. Paper napkins were stored beside cleaning chemicals. 3 open boxes of pasta had been taped shut with painter's tape. I stood in the doorway feeling my pulse improve. "Who manages inventory?" I asked. Lyle opened the stock pot. "The mice." "You have food beside bleach. The bleach has shown no interest. Your dry goods aren't dated. They know what year it is." Denise leaned toward him. "She likes you," I gathered. I spent lunch asking questions I pretended were casual. How many people came through each month? Who ordered supplies? Where were the maintenance records? Why were there 4 brands of commercial coffee filters and none that fit the machine? Lyle answered without apology. He had started switchback with 2 other retirees. One moved to Arizona, the other developed a heart condition and reduced his hours. Lyle could cook for 80, calm a man having a panic attack, and repair a generator with language that peeled bark from trees. Administrative systems bored him into immobility. "What did you do in the Army?" he asked. "Logistics." He pointed his fork toward the pantry. "I knew God hated me." Denise laughed. "I'm not looking for work," I said. "Good. I'm not offering." That annoyed me. After lunch, Denise began painting. I found a marker and labeled the shelf sections. Lyle watched me for a minute. "What are you doing?" "Preventing cross-contamination. You don't work here. The bleach doesn't know that." He took the marker from my hand. "Eat first," he said. "I ate. You rearranged food while holding a sandwich. That is not eating. Sit." "I'm helping." "No, you're hiding in a pantry." The words were gentle, which made them harder to reject. I sat at the nearest table. He brought me a bowl of peach cobbler and stayed across from me until I took a bite. It was excellent. "This is manipulative," I said. "Peaches often are. Denise painted with her back to us. He needs somebody 2 days a week." Lyle sighed. "Holloway." "What?" she asked innocently. "To do what?" I said. "Nothing," Lyle said. "He needs inventory, scheduling, vendor calls, and someone to teach him that receipts are not decorative. My receipts have a system. They're in a flour sack, which I can locate." I looked toward the pantry. Lyle folded his arms. "No, you haven't heard my answer. I've heard your breathing." "My breathing?" "You saw disorder and got excited. That's not the same as wanting a job. I didn't get excited." Denise looked over her shoulder. There was green paint in her hair. "You smiled at the bleach," she said. I left without agreeing to anything. Lyle handed me a plastic container of cobbler for dinner and said, "Come back Thursday if you're bored. Leave at 4. Why 4? Because people who stay until the work is finished die here. Dramatic. There is no finished." That sentence followed me home. My furniture arrived the next day. 2 movers placed the bed frame against the wrong wall, and I let them. This took more discipline than some overseas operations. I attended aquatic therapy in a black swimsuit I had owned since 2012. Kendra made me walk sideways through chest-deep water, while a retired electrician named Paul discussed his gout in operational detail. At home, I hung 1 photograph. My platoon in Kuwait. The flag stayed on the kitchen counter. Dad's maintenance list was 600 miles away in a cardboard box marked, "Mara, take." I wondered if Mom had moved it. At 9:40 that night, Corinne called. "I went back," she said, "to Owen, to the house, not the motel. How did it go?" He apologized, with or without a but. Without. That's promising. He took 17 minutes to get there. Still. She laughed softly. He cleaned rooms after Marta refused. He says his back is permanently shaped like a bathtub. "Housekeeping is advanced mathematics," I told him. I waited for her to tell me what she needed. She didn't. Instead, she said, "Elaine asked me to cover the desk tomorrow. I said no. How did that go?" She told me family shows up. The phrase sat between us. "What did you say?" I asked. I said I had shown up for 15 years and was still waiting to be considered family. I closed my eyes. "I'm proud of you," I said. "I don't know if I'm proud." I was shaking. You can shake and still mean it. She called me ungrateful. That usually means the free labor has noticed it's free. Corinne was quiet. Is that what happened to you? Before I could answer, another call came through. Mom. I declined it. A voicemail appeared while Corinne told me about Owen sleeping on the couch by choice because the bedroom felt too normal. After we hung up, I listened. Mara, your brother is talking about selling his truck and leaving the motel. Corinne is filling his head with nonsense, and he won't listen to me. I need you to explain what walking away would do to this family. Her voice lowered. He listens to you. The message ended. For years, that sentence had felt like proof of my importance. Standing in my two-colored kitchen, I heard what it really meant. She wanted me to return without coming home. I called Owen before I could confuse restraint with silence. He answered on the second ring. Mom got to you. She left a message. Of course she did. She says you're selling your truck and running away to join a cult. I said I might apply at the marina. That's how cults start. He laughed once, then stopped as if he hadn't meant to. What does the truck have to do with it? I asked. The payment is stupid. Corinne has been saying that for 2 years. Corinne is right. I know. This has been a difficult week for me. I sat on the kitchen floor with my back against the cream cabinet. The rest of the duplex was still mostly boxes. My bed was assembled, but I hadn't put the nightstands in place because the movers had left one upstairs screw inside the wrong hardware bag, and I wanted to stay angry at them. Mom wants me to tell you what leaving would do to the family, I said. Are you going to? No. Silence. What do you want? I asked. He made a sound that might have been a laugh if it had contained any humor. Since when do we ask that? Since I'm trying not to tell you what to do. You're bad at it. I know. The office bell rang in the background. Owen didn't move to answer it. After a few seconds, Mom's footsteps crossed the lobby. I had an interview at Lake Fulton Marina last year, he said quietly. Maintenance supervisor. Last year? They wanted me. Why didn't you take it? Dad had just started slowing down. Mom said hiring somebody to replace me would destroy the payroll. You've never been on payroll. That was my point. Owen had received room, groceries, gas money, and whatever cash the motel could spare. Elaine called it protecting him from taxes. I called it a system that worked beautifully if no one asked what his labor was worth. What do you want to do? I asked again. I like fixing boats. You hate boats. I hate being on boats. They're fine when they sit still. That seems limiting for a boat. I'm not applying to be captain. Mom called his name from the lobby. I have to go. Do what you want, Owen. That's not advice. It's all you're getting. He hesitated. Are you coming back for Dad's birthday? Dad would have turned 71 in September. Every year, Mom made a German chocolate cake, even though he preferred carrot. She said German chocolate was traditional. Nobody knew whose tradition. I don't know. It's 6 weeks away. I know how calendars work. Right. He hung up before either of us said something that would require another call. Thursday morning, I arrived at Switchback at 07:45. Lyle stood outside the dining hall with a mug in one hand and a ring of keys in the other. You're early, he said. I'm 15 minutes early. That's what early means here. What time did you get here? I live in the cabin behind the barn. I have achieved a negative commute. He unlocked the dining hall. Still not offering you a job. I'm still not asking. By 9, I had counted every can in the pantry, discarded 6 pounds of flour inhabited by something ambitious, and built a spreadsheet that separated food, maintenance, and medical supplies. Lyle looked at the laptop screen. Why is it colored? Red means reorder. Yellow means low. Green means sufficient. What does purple mean? You own 720 compostable forks and no composting program. Purple means abundance. Purple means stop buying forks. He leaned closer. Can we make that blue? Why? I don't respect purple. At 11, a delivery truck arrived with 9 cases of black beans, though Lyle had ordered 2. The driver, a woman named Renee, who knew Lyle well enough to walk into the kitchen and take a biscuit, said the invoice showed 9. Lyle reached for a pen. I put my hand over the invoice. "Did you order online?" "He called it in," Renee said. "I left a voicemail," Lyle said. "What exactly did you say?" 2 cases black beans, 9 cases tomatoes." Renee bit into her biscuit. Mystery solved. The tomatoes were not on the truck. Lyle signed only after she corrected the invoice. The extra beans went back. He watched them leave with an expression usually reserved for a failed rescue. "We could have used those," he said. "For what? Bean emergencies." I showed him how to submit orders through the vendor portal. He wrote the password on a sticky note. "Don't put that beside the computer." "Where should I put it?" "In a password manager. I have a manager now. You don't." "What are you doing?" "Visiting." He put the sticky note in his pocket. Visitors do not reconcile invoices. Some visitors are better than others. At noon, 8 adults arrived for a 3-day retreat. They carried duffel bags, coolers, medications, and the tense politeness of people who had agreed to an experience before understanding it involved strangers. Nobody wore matching shirts. No one saluted anybody. A woman named Beth studied the cabins and said, "Which one has the best mattress?" Lyle answered, "None of them." This is how equality works. A former Marine named Curtis asked where the schedule was. "In my office," Lyle said. "Can I see it?" "No." Curtis looked genuinely alarmed. "You'll eat at 6, Lyle added. "Between now and then, we'll show you around and find out who snores." That's the schedule? That's life. I recognized Curtis. Not his face, but the way he stood with both hands empty and still managed to look as if he were carrying equipment. I wanted to hand him a clipboard. Instead, I showed Beth how to adjust the heater in cabin 3. She pointed at my retirement haircut, still regulation short. "You work here?" "Apparently not." "Good. I don't trust enthusiastic staff." "I'm not enthusiastic. That's more believable." The afternoon was a series of small failures. The hot water in cabin 5 stopped. One guest had forgotten a charger for a medical device. The trail map listed a footbridge that had washed out in spring. I handled each problem as it arrived, moving from cabin to office to pantry with the satisfying pressure of being useful. At 3:55, I was kneeling behind the dining hall sink, trying to replace a cracked supply line. Lyle's boots appeared beside me. "Go home. I'm almost done. That sentence is prohibited." 5 minutes. 4 o'clock was the agreement. We didn't have an agreement. "Then why are you here?" I tightened the fitting. Pain traveled from my hip to my lower back, but the wrench needed another quarter turn. Lyle reached under the sink and took it from my hand. I looked at him. "No," he said. "I know how to replace a line." "I know you know." "Then give me the wrench." "No." The easy humor had gone out of his face. Not anger, something firmer. "You're limping," he said. "I'm kneeling." "You limped while kneeling. It was impressive." "The sink needs water for dinner. I ran field kitchens without plumbing. We'll survive. I'm not leaving a task unfinished." "That sounds like a you problem." Heat rose into my face. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Treat me like I'm fragile. I'm treating you like you said you'd leave at 4. "I didn't say that. You did. And you came back anyway." Behind us, pots knocked together in the kitchen. Curtis laughed at something. The sound was ordinary and close. Lyle lowered his voice. "You don't have to damage yourself to prove the work mattered. I'm not proving anything, then stop." I hated him for about 3 seconds. Then I sat back on my heels. My hip throbbed. He offered a hand. I ignored it and used the cabinet to stand. The room tilted slightly. Lyle noticed and pretended not to. "Thursday," he said, "same time." "Paid. I don't need charity. It isn't charity. Charity would be letting you reorganize my pantry for free because it quiets your brain." I stared at him. 20 hours a week, he said. Inventory, vendors, schedules, basic maintenance, nothing involving roofs, ladders, or proving a point. You leave when I tell you. You're a terrible recruiter. I was a cook. Nobody re-enlisted because of me. What's the pay? He named an amount lower than my experience could command and higher than I expected from Switchback. You can afford that? If you stop me from buying 700 forks, 720. See? You've already earned Thursday. I accepted on the condition that I finish the supply line. He accepted on the condition that he finished it while I sat in a chair and criticized him. He installed it backward the first time. I was gracious for almost 30 seconds. At home, I iced my hip and ate leftover cobbler. I had worked one day since retirement and already been sent away for exceeding instructions. The Army had praised that behavior. My family had depended on it. Lyle had taken the wrench. I wasn't sure which response felt more insulting. My phone vibrated with a picture from Owen. Room 12 had been cleaned. The funeral suit and shoes were gone from the bed. So was the box labeled Mara, Take. Fresh white towels sat on the dresser. The cribbage board was not visible. Under the photograph, he wrote, "Mom put the room back in inventory. I moved Dad's things into the workshop before she could donate them. Nothing's gone." I zoomed in on the empty dresser. "Thank you," I typed. His response came immediately, applied at the marina. I stared at that longer. "Good," I wrote. 3 dots appeared. "Mom says you told me to." I called him. "She cornered me," he said before hello. "Did you tell her I told you to apply?" "No. I said you told me to do what I wanted." "That's not the same." "It is to Mom. Wanting something she doesn't want is an infection. She needs a source." "What did you say?" "That I've wanted to leave for years." The words settled between us. "Did you?" I asked. "Yeah." "Why didn't you ever tell me?" He laughed, but it sounded tired. "You would have helped. I'm trying not to take that as an insult. I mean, you would have made a plan. Job listings, budget, moving dates. Then Mom would have cried. Dad would have gotten quiet, and you would have negotiated some compromise where I stayed but got Sundays off. I could see it. A spreadsheet, a conversation, a solution that preserved the system and called itself change. "I'm sorry," I said. "You didn't know. I didn't ask." "No," he said. "None of us did." A guest knocked on the office counter and Owen lowered the phone. "Mara?" "Yeah?" "Dad's cribbage board is safe. Keep it there." "You don't want me to mail it?" "Not yet." He didn't ask why. After we hung up, I went outside and sat in the folding chair. Evening light caught the top of the leaning fence. The neighbor's ceramic frogs stared toward the street, waiting for something to arrive. At 8:13, Mom left a voicemail. She didn't mention the motel, the marina, or Dad. "I don't know who you are anymore," she said. I listened twice. Then I went inside without answering, because for the first time, neither did I. The person I became on Thursdays owned a clipboard. Lyle objected to it on principle. "Clipboards create hierarchy," he said. "Clipboards create a surface to write on. Tables create a surface. Tables don't walk. You're making my point." By my 3rd week at Switchback, the pantry stayed organized. The vendor orders matched the deliveries, and the purple compostable fork category had fallen to 684. Lyle started putting a fork beside my plate at lunch, whether I needed one or not. I left at 4. Not 4:30. Not after one last email. At 4, Lyle stood in the office doorway and jingled his keys until I closed the computer. The first few times, I drove home angry. Then I started using the extra hour for physical therapy exercises on the living room floor. I bought a lamp. I learned the neighbor with the ceramic frogs was named Hazel and that she arranged them according to weather conditions. Sunny days faced east, rainy days faced the house. "They come in?" I asked. "Of course not," she said. "They're outdoor frogs." I nodded as if that explained the system. My uniforms stayed in the closet. The flag case moved from the kitchen counter to a shelf in the living room. The wrong name plaque went beneath it because I liked the effect of the flag resting over Maria Vance, as if the nation had honored a woman none of us had met. Mom left no more messages after saying she didn't know me. Her silence bothered me more than the calls. I checked my phone each morning before I got out of bed. Nothing. At night, I checked the motel's public booking page without logging in. Fewer rooms were available during the week. Rooms 5 and 14 had disappeared from inventory entirely. I knew Room 5's air conditioning unit had been failing. Room 14 had a shower valve that stuck. I knew the part numbers. I knew which local suppliers carried them. I did not call. Owen called me instead. The marina offered me the job, he said. I was in Switchback's office trying to reconcile a credit from the bean delivery. Congratulations, Mom cried. That isn't a response to the job, it was hers. When do you start? Monday after next. That soon? I asked for sooner. I leaned back in the chair. Outside, Lyle was teaching Curtis how to split wood without turning it into a personal contest. Curtis had returned as a volunteer. He still asked for the schedule, but now he laughed when Lyle refused. What happens at the motel? I asked. Mom says she'll hire somebody. Will she? No. Then what? She says I'll realize I'm making a mistake. That's not a staffing plan, I told her. How's Corinne? Good. She moved home, to the house and the couch. I have been promoted. I smiled. Owen grew quiet. What? I asked. Dad's birthday is Sunday. My calendar already held it. Warren, 71, written in black ink I had not yet been able to erase. Mom's making dinner, he said. She wants you here. She told you that? She said there will be enough food if you happen to come. That is not the same sentence. She wants you here. I looked at the computer. The vendor credit was off by $11.40. A clean problem. A problem with one correct answer. I'm not coming, I said. You don't have to stay at the motel. You can stay with us. No, Mom won't apologize over the phone. She hasn't apologized anywhere else. She's not going to do it with an audience. You'll be there. Corinne and I can take a walk. I'm not driving 600 miles hoping Mom agrees to take a walk. She misses you. She has my number. Mara. I know what day it is. He exhaled. Okay. The word hurt because he let it. I put down the phone and stared at the purple fork total until Lyle appeared beside the desk. You're holding your shoulders around your ears, he said. They're not that high. They can hear your thoughts. I rolled them back. He sat on the corner of the desk. Family? How do you know? Everyone has that face after family, except orphans, and they usually got there somehow. I told him it was Dad's birthday Sunday. I did not tell him about the invitation. He didn't ask. What did he like to eat? Lyle said. Carrot cake. That's not food. That's dessert pretending to contain vegetables. Mom always made German chocolate. Did he like German chocolate? He ate it. That is not the same question. Lyle printed a carrot cake recipe and left it on my clipboard. I bought the ingredients Saturday afternoon. The first cake collapsed in the center. The second stuck to the pan. I stood in my kitchen at 10:15 p.m., surrounded by shredded carrots and bowls coated in cream cheese frosting, wondering how my father had reached 70 birthdays without teaching me this. Denise arrived with a bottle of wine and a cake carrier. I smelled distress, she said. You live 3 blocks away. I smelled carrots. She tasted the frosting with one finger. This is good. It has chunks. Cream cheese has texture. It shouldn't. Your father ate gas station hot dogs. His standards had range. We assembled the least damaged cake and covered its missing section with too much frosting. Denise found a single candle in my junk drawer. Why do you own one candle? She asked. It came with the drawer organizer. That raises more questions. At midnight, we ate 2 slices at the kitchen counter. Dad had once tried to send me a cake during basic training. Mom explained that the Army did not distribute homemade packages individually, but Dad mailed it anyway. By the time it reached me, the frosting had liquefied into the cardboard. My drill sergeant made me open the box in front of everyone because it was leaking. Dad laughed for 10 minutes when I told him. He always thought consequences improved a story, I said. Denise drank her wine. Most fathers do. The next afternoon, I drove the cake to Switchback. Lyle put it out after dinner without asking why it leaned. At 6:42, my phone rang. Mom. I stepped outside. The dining hall windows glowed behind me. Through the glass, Curtis cut the cake into unequal slices, while Beth corrected him. Lyle took the largest piece when they weren't looking. I answered. Neither of us spoke at first. Finally, Mom said, I didn't think you would. Happy birthday to Dad. That's what you have to say? I don't know what you want me to say. You know exactly what I wanted. Owen invited me. You didn't come. No. We saved your place. The image was immediate. The long table in the breakfast room, Dad's empty chair, a German chocolate cake, one untouched plate set for me. Mom had always understood the power of an empty place. I told Owen I wasn't coming. He thought you might change your mind. Did he? A pause. No. I leaned against the dining hall wall. I'm wearing your father's shirt, she said. I know. He used to wear it when he closed the pool. I know that too. The ice machine quit this morning. There it was. I laughed before I could stop myself. Mom went silent. I'm sorry, I said. I'm not laughing about Dad. You're laughing at me. No, I'm laughing because we made it almost a minute. You think I called about the ice machine? I think you don't know how to call me unless something is broken. My husband is dead. So is my father. And yet you're behaving like I did this alone. What do you want from me? I want you to stop acting like a stranger. I'm not the one who said she didn't know me. You stopped answering because every call came with a job. Your family. Family helps. Family waits one day. Her breath caught. I closed my eyes. Inside, somebody dropped a fork. Lyle cheered. Is that where you are? Mom asked. That veterans camp? It's a retreat. You took a job caring for strangers. I manage supplies. You always find somewhere else to be needed. That landed because it was partly true. I looked through the window at Curtis telling a story with both hands while Beth stole frosting from his plate. They did not need me. The meal would have happened without me. The pantry would become disorderly. Lyle would order too many beans, and nobody would die. I don't know how to do this with you, Mom said. It was the first honest thing she had given me. I don't either. Then come home. You skipped the part where anything changes. What am I supposed to change? The funeral is over. Your father is gone. I can't put his ashes back in the urn. No, I said I should have called. You admitted you could have. What difference is there? An admission is about facts. An apology is about what you did to someone. Her voice hardened. I will not beg my own daughter to forgive me. I didn't ask you to beg. What do you call this? I'm not doing anything to you. That's the problem. We had circled back to the place where my absence became an action and hers became a condition everyone had to survive. I rubbed my forehead. I made carrot cake, I said. Mom stopped. For Dad, I added, it collapsed. He would have made fun of it. He would have eaten it. I know. He hated German chocolate. I know. Another silence, softer this time. Then why did you make it every year? I asked. Because the first birthday after we married, I made him one. He said it was perfect. So you kept making it. He should have told me. He tried. In 2008, he said carrot had better frosting. That isn't the same as saying he hated my cake. I laughed again. This time, after a moment, Mom did too. It lasted one breath. Then she said, Owen starts at the marina next Monday. Marta gave notice. She says she'll stay through the month, but I know she won't. Corinne refuses to cover the office. I can't run this place alone. I watched the light shift across the gravel path. What are you going to do? I asked. I'm asking you. I know. Your father built this motel, and all of us kept it running. So you'll let it fail to prove a point? I didn't say that. You don't have to. I have to go. Mara, good night, Mom. I hung up before she could turn Dad's birthday into an assignment neither of us could complete. When I went inside, Lyle had saved me the crooked end piece. It has the most structural integrity, he said. 2 days later, Owen started at the marina. Marta left after Elaine accused her of abandoning the family during its hardest year. Rooms stayed closed longer between guests. A 1-star review mentioned peeling paint, weak coffee, and a woman at the desk who argued with a housekeeper while customers waited. Mom forwarded the review to me without comment. I deleted it. That evening, Corinne called from the motel workshop. I was moving Warren's things away from the damp wall, she said. Her voice sounded strange, thin and careful. There's a box under his workbench. Okay, it has your name on it. I stopped walking. Not Mara, take in Mom's block letters. Dad's handwriting, Corinne said, just my name. And beneath it, one word, home. Don't open it, I said. I wasn't going to. Where's Owen? Standing beside me. Put me on speaker. There was a scrape, then Owen's voice. I'm here. Did you know about the box? No. Does Mom? No. Keep it that way, Corinne said. There's damp along the back wall. The bottom is wet, but I don't think it reached anything inside. What kind of box? Old file box. Warren wrapped it in 2 trash bags. Dad had never trusted plastic storage tubs. He said they made people believe basements were waterproof. Bring it inside, I said. To the motel? No. The word came out too quickly. Owen understood. We'll take it to our house. Don't open it. Mara, we heard you. I know. I wanted to ask Corinne what Dad's handwriting looked like. Shaky? Strong? Written before he got sick or after? I wanted her to photograph every side. Then I wanted the box to remain exactly where Dad had left it until he came back and explained himself. When can you bring it? I asked. Owen was quiet. I can drive down Saturday. That's 12 hours round trip. You drove it. I thought Dad was waiting. Another silence. I'll bring it, he said. After the call, I stood in my living room with my phone in my hand. My therapy band lay on the floor where I had dropped it. One end was looped around the leg of the couch. Dad had kept a box for me under his workbench. Not Mom, not Owen, me. That fact tried to become comfort before I knew what was inside. I refused to let it. I called Denise. There's a box, I said. Of course there is. What does that mean? Families like yours always have a box. Mine had a coffee can full of teeth. Human? My grandfather was a dentist. Probably. I told her where Corinne found it. Do you want company Saturday? She asked. No. Do you want me to pretend I'm just stopping by with a casserole? You don't make casseroles. I could bring one from a church. I need to do this alone. You need to open it with your brother. That's what I meant. No, you meant no witnesses. I sat on the couch. Denise. All right. But call me after. I will. If you vanish, I'm taking the cream cabinet door off its hinges. That's emotional terrorism. Effective, though. Saturday morning, I cleaned the duplex twice. I wiped the kitchen counter, vacuumed the carpet, changed the sheets in the guest room, and moved the flag case so the afternoon sun wouldn't glare across it. Owen had never visited any place I lived while I was serving unless my parents came too. I couldn't decide whether I wanted the duplex to look temporary or established. At 2:17, his truck pulled up beside the curb. He had not sold it yet. The vehicle was black, enormous, and clean, in the way expensive trucks are clean when their owners can't afford to put anything damaging in the bed. Owen climbed out wearing jeans and a Lake Fulton Marina work shirt. The shirt had his name embroidered over the pocket. He opened the rear door and lifted out a brown file box wrapped in clear plastic. For one irrational second, I expected it to be heavier. Hey, he said. Hey. He looked at the duplex. You live next to a frog sanctuary. Don't mention them. Hazel will explain the migration pattern. The front door of the other unit opened 2 inches. Hazel's face appeared. Rain tomorrow, she called. 3 ceramic frogs faced the house. Thank you, I said. Owen carried the box inside. He set it on the kitchen table and looked around. His eyes stopped on the wrong name plaque. Maria? Distinguished Service. He smiled, then saw the folded flag. His expression changed. Was that from your ceremony? Lunch? They gave you a flag at lunch? There was cake. I'm sorry I missed it. I didn't invite anyone. I know. He walked to the cream cabinet, opened it, and closed it again. This doesn't match. I adjusted the hinge. That was not my concern. I took 2 bottles of water from the refrigerator. He drank half of his before sitting down. The box remained between us. Did you bring the cribbage board? I asked. No. You said to keep it there. Thank you. Mom hasn't gone into the workshop. She says Dad's tools smell like him. They smell like motor oil. Dad smelled like motor oil. Fair. I cut the plastic with kitchen scissors. The cardboard beneath was soft at one lower corner but dry across the lid. Dad had written M-A-R-A in thick black marker. Under it, home. The O was smaller than the other letters. I traced it with my thumb. Open it, Owen said. You open it. It's your name. He put your name on motel tools so you wouldn't lose them. He put my name on them because I lost them. I lifted the lid. Letters filled the box, bundled with rubber bands that had dried and cracked. White envelopes, yellow envelopes, military stationery, postcards from airports. My handwriting traveled backward through 20 years. I picked up the top bundle. Fort Knox, 2003. I had written home every Sunday during basic training because Dad said phone calls were too expensive, and Mom said letters built character. The first envelope had been opened with a knife. The paper inside was worn thin along its folds. Beneath it were letters from Korea, Kuwait, Kentucky, Germany. Some had coffee rings. One had a greasy fingerprint I recognized as Dad's because his right thumb was missing the outer ridge from an accident with a router. He kept all of them, Owen said. So did Mom. Moms are in a plastic tub. Of course they are. The next layer held printed pages clipped into groups. At the top of each was a date and time, followed by blocks of text, my voice messages. The Tuesday story about the forklift was there. So was the fox, the folding tables, the lieutenant colonel who said, "Cachet." Each pause had become an ellipsis. Each laugh was written in brackets. Who printed these? I asked. Owen leaned closer. At the bottom of one page, in small type, was a note. Transcribed for Mr. Vance at patient request. A. Mercer, RN. He asked a nurse, Owen said. Why? Maybe he couldn't hear the phone. He had hearing aids. He wouldn't wear them. I turned pages. Some transcripts had been folded. Dad had marked them with blue pen. Beside a story about the motel pool, he wrote, Owen denies this. Beside my complaint about a fox, he wrote, Get her better gloves. Others had never been folded. The staples were still bright. He had asked for my messages in a form he could hold, then become too weak to read them all. My final message was near the bottom. The promise was printed plainly. Hang in there, Dad, I'll be back. He had drawn a line beneath it. Nothing else. I put the pages down. Owen reached across the table, then stopped before touching my hand. There's more, he said. I can see that. A black composition notebook lay beneath the transcripts. Dad had labeled the cover, Blue Heron, Mara. Inside were dates and amounts. Roof repair. Mara paid $4,600. Pool pump, Mara card. Back taxes loan from M. Paid back $2,000. Still owe $3,250. December boiler. Mara again. There were plane tickets, invoices, paint, software fees, furniture for renovated rooms, smaller entries hurt worse, groceries while E recovering, Owen tires. Anniversary dinner, Mara insisted. At the bottom of one page, Dad had totaled everything, crossed out the number, and written, Don't do this. Did you know he kept track? Owen asked. No, I didn't know you paid for my tires. You needed them. You told me Dad did. He was embarrassed. Owen stared at the notebook. I thought the motel paid you back. It did sometimes. How much? I don't know. You know exactly. I didn't keep a total. Dad had. The number wasn't a fortune. It wasn't enough to transform my life or destroy theirs. It was simply larger than anyone had ever said aloud. I closed the notebook. Owen's water bottle crackled beneath his grip. Mom and Dad promised me the motel, he said. I looked at him. Not on paper. Nothing official. Just someday, they said I'd take over and you'd always have a room. A room. I know how it sounds. Do you? I do now. He set down the bottle. When Mom wanted to move the funeral, I knew the tournament mattered. If we canceled, we'd lose money. Guests might not come back. She kept saying this weekend would prove whether I could run the place after Dad. I waited. I thought if I disagreed, she'd say I wasn't ready, or she'd start talking about selling, or she'd tell Dad wherever he was that I'd let everything fall apart the first week. So you agreed, yes, and you didn't call me, no, because the motel might stop being yours. His eyes filled, but he did not look away. Yes, the honesty made it worse before it made anything better. I stood and walked to the patio door. Hazel had turned another frog toward the house. Clouds gathered above the oaks. Behind me, Owen said, I kept telling myself the service didn't matter because he was already gone, that you could come to the lake later, that there wasn't anything to wait for. You knew I was driving. Yes. You knew the funeral date was why. Yes. And every time you could have called, you chose the motel. Yes. I turned around. He was crying without wiping his face. I'm sorry, he said. No explanation. No but. I did it because I wanted what they promised me, and then I let Mom blame the army because it was easier than saying I made sure you were late. The refrigerator hummed. A frog toppled outside. I don't know what to do with that, I said. You don't have to do anything. You drove 600 miles to bring the box and confess. Yes. That sounds like you want forgiveness. I want it. I'm not asking for it. He looked at the marina name over his pocket. I don't want the motel anymore, he said. I'm not spending the rest of my life getting rewarded for that day. He left the job out of it. He didn't say whether Mom could keep the motel running or whether she would sell. He just said what he would no longer accept. We returned to the box. At the bottom, beneath the notebook, was an envelope that had never been sealed. Mara, Dad had written. Inside were 3 pages in his hand. The first began with an apology for his handwriting. The second had a brown stain from his coffee. The third ended halfway down. He wrote that Mom treated my absence like a wound because anger was easier for her than missing me. He wrote that Owen leaned on me because Dad had taught him I would catch whatever he dropped. He wrote that every time I came home and fixed something, he was proud of me and ashamed of how quickly pride became expectation. Then he wrote, I let your mother say the army took you from us because correcting her would mean admitting how much we kept sending you away with a reason to come back. We made emergencies into invitations. We made guilt sound like love. The final paragraph stopped in the middle of a sentence. I worry we have asked you to return so many times that one day nothing followed. Dad had known. That was the gift inside the box. He had known, and he had died before doing anything about it. I read the unfinished sentence until the words became shapes. Owen sat across from me with his hands folded between his knees. He had stopped crying. His face looked swollen and embarrassed, as if grief were something his body had done in public without permission. Did Mom know he was writing this? I asked. I don't think so. Did you? No. Who's A. Mercer? The nurse? I know that. What was her first name? Alice, maybe. She came in mornings. Dad liked her because she didn't call him sweetheart. I stacked the transcripts by date. Some pages were out of order. Dad would have blamed the nurse, though his own filing method included a box hidden beneath a workbench and wrapped like contraband. Did he read these himself? I asked. Early on, probably. What does that mean? It means I don't know. You were there. I was there, Mara. I wasn't inside his head. The answer was sharp enough to be true. I put the last message on top of the stack. Mom said he was confused. He was, near the end. Was he confused when he asked for transcripts? No. Then why didn't anybody tell me? He looked at the window. Rain began tapping the glass. Because every day we didn't tell you made the next day harder. After a while, telling you meant admitting how long we'd lied. That logic was familiar. It was how maintenance failed. Ignore the rust because removing it meant acknowledging the leak. Paint over it because the wall had guests arriving Friday. By the time anyone opened the wall, the structure had learned to live with rot. Owen pointed at Dad's letter. Do you want me to take it back? No. The notebook? No. Okay. He stood. then seemed uncertain what came next. "You can stay," I said. "The guest room is made up." His eyebrows rose. "You drove 600 miles. "I booked a hotel." "Where?" "Near the interstate. That place has bed bugs." "How do you know?" "I stayed there when I came down for your promotion ceremony." I looked at him. "Which one?" "Sergeant First Class. That was in Kentucky." "I know. You came?" "Dad and I drove. Mom got mad because he said we didn't need reservations. The hotel was full, so we watched the ceremony online from a sports bar. My promotion had been live-streamed because a colonel's husband was deployed. I remembered a notification that Dad had joined, then disappeared. I assumed he couldn't make the link work." "Why didn't you tell me?" "You were busy." "Then Dad wanted to surprise you at breakfast, but we got food poisoning. From the sports bar, gas station egg salad. You drove to my promotion and ate gas station egg salad. Dad said consequences improve a story." I laughed, and it broke into something else. Owen stepped toward me. He waited. I let him hug me. I did not forgive him. My arms went around my brother because both things could be true. He slept in the guest room. I stayed at the table long after the rain stopped, reading letters I had forgotten writing. At basic training, I had begged Dad not to let Mom give away my record player. From Korea, I sent 3 pages about a woman in my unit who snored. During my first deployment, I wrote that I was scared without using the word scared once. Dad had underlined ordinary sentences. "I miss pancakes. The moon looks wrong here. Tell Owen he owes me $20. Home had existed in those letters as a fixed place. The motel, the lake. Mom behind the counter, Dad with a tool in his hand, Owen eating something he had not paid for. I had carried that picture from post to post, protecting it from change. The box did not prove the picture was false. It proved Dad had seen the cost of maintaining it. In the morning, Owen made eggs. He used too much butter and left 1 piece of shell in mine. "You don't own a toaster," he said. "I own a toaster. Where?" "Kitchen box. Which one?" I looked at the 6 labeled boxes against the wall. "Small appliance A." He stared at me. "There's an A. There's also a B." I take back my apology. He found the toaster, then put it on the counter without plugging it in. Progress had limits. Before leaving, he stood beside the box. "What are you going to do with Dad's total?" he asked. "Nothing. You could ask Mom to pay you." "With what?" "If she sells, no." "Mara, that money was supposed to be loans. Some of it. You should at least make a copy. I'm not turning Dad's guilt into an invoice. He wrote it down for a reason. He wrote, 'Don't do this.' That might mean don't add it up. It might mean don't make Mara pay again." Owen rubbed his thumb over the embroidered Marina logo. "I'm sorry about the tires," he said. "Stop apologizing for needing tires." "I'm not. I'm apologizing because I let you call it Dad's help." I closed the notebook. That was my choice. "Why?" "Because you would take Dad's help. You wouldn't take mine." He winced because we both knew it was true. I walked him to the truck. Hazel was repositioning the frogs after the rain. She gave Owen a suspicious nod. "You'll call?" he asked. "When I want to." He absorbed that. "Okay, and you can call me, even if nothing's broken?" "Especially then." He hugged me again. This time, I stepped back first. At Switchback, I tried to work as if the box were not on my kitchen table. I updated the retreat calendar, reviewed invoices, and discovered Lyle had ordered 3 cases of canned peaches because they were on sale. "We have 12 cases," I said. We had 9. "We have limited shelf space. Peaches are compact. They are exactly the size of the can. That's why they stack." I turned the monitor toward him. "This is not a system if you ignore it. It was a sale. You saved $14 and spent $42. We'll use them." "When?" "Cobbler." "For how many people?" "Grief has made you hostile to peaches." I froze. Lyle leaned against the doorframe. "You've corrected the same invoice 4 times. It remains incorrect. It was corrected this morning. The original is still in the folder, because folders contain old paper. I closed it too hard." He looked at me, not unkindly. "What happened?" he asked. "My brother brought me a box. That sounds ominous." My father kept every letter I sent home. Less ominous. He wrote me a letter before he died. Lyle waited. He knew what they were doing. The guilt, the emergencies, all of it. He knew. And nothing. He died. That is a substantial nothing. He let it happen. Yes, he apologized. Also, yes, I wanted him to choose which fact mattered. He didn't. He was supposed to be the easy one, I said. Mom was difficult. Owen was unreliable. Dad was the reason I came back. Maybe he knew that. He did know. That's the point. No. I mean, maybe being the easy one was how he kept you coming. The anger hit fast. You didn't know him? No. Then don't reduce him to some tactic. I didn't. You just did. Lyle took his keys from the hook. Go home, Mara. It's 1:30. I'm aware. You're sending me home because I disagree with you? I'm sending you home because you're trying to make an invoice apologize. I have work. It'll be here Thursday. I'm paid for 20 hours. You're paid to do a job. You're not paid to punish yourself in my office. I stood. My chair rolled back and hit the file cabinet. You think because you feed people and make jokes, you understand them. No. I think lunch is at 12 and work ends. That's convenient. Yes, he said. Boundaries usually are for somebody. That was unfair enough to follow me all the way to the parking lot. I drove home furious. Denise was sitting on my patio. How did you get in? I asked. The fence leans. You climbed it? I used the gate. That sounded less dramatic. She held 2 iced coffees. I took one without thanking her. Lyle called, she said. Of course he did. He said peaches were involved. He doesn't respect inventory controls. You look terrible. That's becoming your greeting. It keeps being accurate. Inside, she saw the box on the table. I gave her Dad's letter. She read it standing up. Halfway through, she sat. When she finished, she returned the pages in the correct order. That was friendship. He understood, she said, and did nothing. He wrote this when he was dying. Dead people are very brave about conversations they can't finish. I looked at her. That was harsh, she said. Accurate, though. Cousins. She nodded. I opened the notebook to Dad's total. Denise barely glanced at the amount. This isn't why you're angry. I know. You wanted the box to prove he was on your side. He was. You wanted that to be enough. I folded my arms. She touched the unfinished sentence. Maybe he didn't know how to stop needing you. He could have tried. Yes. What am I supposed to do with an apology from someone who can't hear my answer? Nothing today. That's everybody's advice, because today appears to be going poorly. I laughed despite myself. She stayed until I apologized to Lyle by text. I wrote, I was angry at my father and took it out on your peaches. Lyle replied, Peaches forgive. Thursday at 8. Mom called that night. I answered. Owen told me he took a box, she said. Dad left it for me. It was in my workshop. Dad's workshop, my property. You didn't know it existed. That doesn't mean Owen had the right to remove it. It has my name on it. What's inside? I looked at Dad's letter. Things he kept. What things? Letters, transcripts of my messages, a notebook. Her breathing changed. What notebook? Ask Dad. That is a hateful thing to say. He kept track of what I put into the motel. I knew this was about money. It isn't. You leave us struggling, then produce some list to prove we owe you. I didn't produce it. Dad did. How much does he say? I'm not asking for money. Then why mention it because you asked what was inside? She went quiet. Is there a letter? She asked. I didn't answer fast enough. What did he say about me? He said more about himself. That's not what I asked. He said he let you use my absence against me. I never used anything. He thought you did. Your father was medicated. Not when he started the letter. You don't know that. Neither do you. She inhaled sharply. I want to see it. No, he was my husband. He wrote it to me. You are enjoying this. There it was again. My refusal transformed into aggression. I'm hanging up now. If you do, I will drive down there. Don't. I mean it. So do I. She disconnected first. For 3 days, nothing happened. Then, Thursday afternoon, I was explaining the new vendor portal to Lyle when a car door slammed outside. He looked through the office window. "Do you know a woman in a blue plaid shirt," he asked, "who looks like she intends to have the building condemned?" I closed the laptop. Mom stood in the gravel lot 600 miles from the motel, staring directly at me. She had buttoned Dad's shirt all the way to the throat. It hung below her hips. The sleeves were rolled twice, unevenly. She carried a purse, an overnight bag, and a foil-covered casserole dish, as if she had driven 600 miles to attend an argument at a church basement. Lyle looked at me. "Do you want me to ask her to leave?" "No." "Do you want me to stay?" "No." He considered Mom through the window. That answer was less confident. "I can handle her. I'm sure you can." That wasn't my question. Mom reached the dining hall porch. She tried the door, found it locked, and knocked hard enough to rattle the glass. "I'll be fine," I said. Lyle handed me the office keys. "Dining hall is empty. If she throws the casserole, duck left. Right side's your bad hip." I unlocked the door. Mom looked past me toward Lyle. "Is that your boss?" "Yes." "He cooks?" "Among other things. He needs an apron." "Hello, Mom." She stepped inside without hugging me. "I brought lasagna. Of course you did. What is that supposed to mean? It means you drove through 3 states angry and still packed food. I didn't pack it. I made it." She placed the dish on the nearest table. The foil had Mara written across it in permanent marker. "How did you know where I was?" I asked. "The internet exists. You don't use the internet. I run a motel. You print emails. They're easier to read." She looked around the dining hall. Her gaze moved over the mismatched chairs, the fireplace, the handwritten meal board, and a line of muddy boots near the back door. "This is where you work." "Yes, it looks like a campground. It mostly is. And people pay to sleep in those sheds? Cabins. The Blue Heron has private bathrooms. Are you recruiting guests? I'm observing." She pulled out a chair and sat. Her shoulders dropped when she thought I wasn't looking. 600 miles had hurt her, though she would have described the pain as stiffness caused by poor highway design. I sat across from her. "Where's the letter?" she asked. "At my house. I drove all this way. I told you not to. You knew I would." "No, I knew you might. Those aren't the same. You always know exactly which words to use. That is usually how conversation works." Her mouth tightened. "May I see it?" she asked. "No." The politeness had cost her. I saw it. "Why not?" "Because Dad wrote it to me. I was married to him for 44 years, and he still wrote it to me. What are you afraid I'll see?" "Nothing." "Then let me read it." "No." She pressed both palms against the table. "Did he blame me for moving the funeral? He didn't know you would. Then whatever he wrote has nothing to do with what happened. It has everything to do with it." How convenient. "Mom, you came here. If you want to say something, say it. I want my husband's papers returned. They're mine. The notebook concerns the motel. The notebook concerns me. You've made that distinction very important lately, because nobody else did." The dining hall door opened behind me. Curtis stepped in carrying an empty coffee urn. He saw Mom, saw me, and stopped. "Bad time?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "No," Mom said. Curtis looked between us. "I'm going to trust the person with keys." He backed out and closed the door. Mom watched him leave. "Is he one of the veterans?" "He's Curtis." "That's not what I asked. It's the answer." Her eyes sharpened. "You've known these people for weeks, and suddenly they're more entitled to your loyalty than we are. Curtis wanted a coffee urn. He listened when you said no. The sentence arrived before I could prepare for it." Mom looked toward the door. "That's what this is?" she asked. "You like it here because everybody obeys you?" "No, you spent your whole life giving orders, and now you call it boundaries. I spent my career being responsible for consequences. At home, everybody wanted my responsibility without my decisions. We never asked for your career. You asked for everything it taught me. Her face changed. I began with the boiler. I told her about the Christmas I drove overnight after a field exercise and spent 2 days in the basement while my wrist was still swollen. The roof repair I paid for from Germany, the pool pump I replaced during leave, while Mom told guests Owen had done it, the reservation system, the vendor contracts, the room renovations, the nights talking Owen through fights with her, the days talking her through fights with Owen, the flights I bought because every call sounded like the last chance to come home. She interrupted twice. I kept going. I named the convalescent leave I spent painting, the anniversary cards I mailed to motel guests, the holiday schedules I rebuilt from other countries, the emergency surgery when Dad turned out to need a routine procedure, but nobody corrected the story until I landed. That doctor changed his mind, Mom said. You let me board the plane. He could have needed surgery. He didn't. You wanted to come. I wanted not to regret staying. That is not something I invented. No, you just learned how to use it. She stood so quickly the chair legs scraped. I did not force you to do any of those things. No, you volunteered. Yes. You offered money. Yes. You always said the Army paid you well and you didn't need it. Yes. Then don't sit there turning generosity into evidence. I'm not. It sounds like a prosecution. It's the answer to your question. What question? Why I'm here. Mom's chest rose and fell beneath Dad's shirt. The funeral wasn't one bad decision, I said. It was the day you finally said the arrangement out loud. It didn't matter that I came home. It mattered whether I arrived in time to be useful. That is not fair. You moved the funeral for room bookings. I moved it because your father was dead. You didn't call me. I have admitted that. You haven't said why. I was busy. No, I was grieving. No. You don't get to tell me. You told Corinne you hoped I'd arrive tired enough to accept it. Her mouth opened, then closed. I waited. Outside, an axe struck wood. Once, twice. Someone laughed near the cabins. Mom sat again. I couldn't stand waiting for you, she said. Her voice had gone low. We waited through everything. Your flights, your leave approvals, your calls from airports. Your father would sit by the office window whenever you said you were coming, even if you were 2 days out. Every car door made him look up. That wasn't my fault. I know. Do you? I said I know. She rubbed her thumb across the edge of Dad's cuff. When he got sick, everything became about whether to tell you. If we told you too soon, you'd disrupt your retirement. If we told you too late, you'd hate us. He kept changing his mind. One day he said, call her. The next day he said, don't. Then he was too sick, and Owen looked at me like I was supposed to decide what kind of regret everybody could survive. So you chose mine. Yes? The answer removed the floor. Mom stared at the table. I chose yours, she said again. I knew you would survive it. I could not speak. Owen was falling apart. Warren was dying. The motel was full. I had people asking me about flowers while a plumber explained that the downstairs toilet needed a new flange. You were in Germany doing whatever important thing you were doing, and I was angry. At me, at everyone. At your father for hiding it. At Owen for needing instructions. At myself for not dragging Warren to a doctor sooner. She looked at me then. And at you, because the Army always got the strongest part. There it was. Not an apology. Something closer to the bone. You came home in uniform, she said. Straight-backed, organized, asking questions like answers could make any of it different. People looked at you and saw sacrifice. They looked at me and asked whether we had enough coffee for the reception. I didn't ask them to. I know. The Army didn't take the strongest part of me. Her lips pressed together. You spent it, I said. She flinched harder than she had at anything else. You and Dad and Owen. Every time you called, I gave you some. Every time I came home, I gave more. And none of you noticed because I kept showing up with enough left. I noticed. Then why wasn't it ever enough? Her eyes filled. Because you made it look easy. That wasn't permission. No. We sat across from each other in a room built for people relearning ordinary life. Mom wiped beneath one eye with the heel of her hand. She looked annoyed to find moisture there. I should have called you, she said. Yes. I knew the funeral was early. I knew you were driving. Yes. I wanted you to understand what it felt like when somebody else decided not to wait. The honesty was ugly. It was also the first thing she had given me without making me unwrap it from blame. You could have told me you were angry, I said. I did. You punished me. That's not the same. She nodded once. Not agreement? Not refusal? Just the movement of someone allowing a sentence to remain. After a while, she asked, "Did your father say he loved me? In the letter?" "Anywhere. He wrote that you were angry because missing me hurt." "That sounds like Warren, explaining me to people." "He also said he used you." Her eyes lifted. "He said he let you be the hard one because it kept him easy to come home to." Mom looked toward the fireplace. "That sounds like him too," she said. "I could have given her the letter then." I didn't, not as punishment. I needed one thing from Dad that did not become family property the moment someone wanted it. "Where are you staying?" I asked. "I assumed with you." "No." Her face hardened automatically. Then she took a breath. "All right. There's a hotel near the clinic. It's clean. I run a motel. You'll appreciate the research." A tiny smile tried to appear and failed. "I'll get a room," she said. "I can meet you for breakfast. At the hotel, at a diner. So no one has to host. So neither of us has a job." She stood and picked up her purse. The lasagna remained on the table. "That needs refrigeration," she said. "I know, I used the good cheese. I'll tell Lyle. Is he Chinese?" "Mom, I'm asking because of dairy. He was an army cook for 26 years. He can identify cheese." She nodded, chastened but unconvinced. At the door, she stopped. "What do you want me to do with the motel?" she asked. "Nothing for me. I can't run it the way it was." "Then don't. Your father built it. That doesn't mean you have to die inside it." She looked back at the dining hall, the mismatched chairs, the mud, the meal board covered in names. "Is that what you think I'm doing? I think you don't know who you are without a building that needs you." Her laugh was short and bitter. "And you do?" "No." That answer seemed to satisfy her more than confidence would have. She left. Lyle waited until her car disappeared before entering with Curtis and the coffee urn. "Are we safe?" Curtis asked. "For now." Lyle lifted the foil on the casserole. "Lasagna, she made it." He studied my face. "Did either of you throw it?" "No." "Successful diplomacy." "It wasn't diplomacy. What was it?" I looked through the window at the empty space where Mom's car had been. "A first conversation," I said. At breakfast the next morning, she apologized. Not beautifully, not completely. She said, "I am sorry I changed the funeral and did not call you. It was cruel." Then she immediately began explaining the caterer. I held up my hand. She stopped. That mattered more than the rest. When we left the diner, she did not ask when I was coming home. I did not promise to visit. She hugged me in the parking lot. Dad's shirt smelled like her detergent now. Before getting into her car, she said, "I don't know how to do this differently." "Neither do I." "What happens then?" "We find out." She nodded and drove north. I watched until her car turned onto the highway. The apology did not restore my father's funeral. It did not play the messages or finish his letter. It did not make the blue heron my responsibility again. It only opened a space where something else might happen. For once, I left it empty. The lasagna fed 14 people. Lyle inspected it before dinner and said, "This is the good cheese I told you." I doubted her politics, not her dairy judgment. He cut it into squares while I made salad. When everyone had eaten, one corner remained in the pan. I wrapped it in foil and took it home. Mom called the following Tuesday. I looked at her name for 3 rings before answering. "The ice machine needs a compressor," she said. I closed my eyes. Then she added, "Ray is replacing it Thursday. I'm not asking you to do anything." "Oh, I'm informing you. Why? I don't know. We used to discuss these things." We had not discussed them. She had reported problems, and I had converted them into solutions. "Still," I said, "Thursday is quick." He had a cancellation. "That's good. Yes." We reached the end of our available conversation. "How's the hotel?" I asked. "Motel. I meant your drive back." "I know what you meant." She told me about traffic near Columbus. I told her Lyle approved of the lasagna. She asked whether he had reheated it properly, and I chose not to investigate what improper reheating would mean. Before hanging up, she said, "I hired a front desk manager." "You did?" "Temporary." "What's her name?" "Bev." "She has opinions. So do you. That is the problem. It wasn't an apology or a breakthrough. It was an ice machine she had handled herself and 2 women, discovering that a phone call could end without an assignment. The motel did not recover because I withdrew, and it did not collapse to prove I had been essential. It became smaller. Mom closed 6 rooms for the winter rather than keep pretending they could all be maintained. She hired Ray to repair Room 5's air conditioner and left Room 14 unavailable until spring. She complained about Bev's hourly rate, then admitted bookings stopped disappearing. Marta finished her notice and did not return. Mom mailed her a Christmas card with no request inside. Marta sent me a photograph of it as evidence. Owen kept the marina job. He sold his truck and bought a used sedan, Corinne described as humbling but solvent. His work shirt collected stains that did not belong to the motel. He called me about ordinary things. A boat motor someone had filled with the wrong oil, a diner near the marina with excellent pie, the fact that Corinne had purchased decorative pillows he was forbidden to use. I did not make a plan for him. When he complained about Mom, I asked whether he wanted advice or a witness. The first time, he said, "Who taught you that?" "Denise." "Witness." So I listened. He went to the Blue Heron on Sundays to repair what he chose. Mom tried to turn those visits into shifts until he began leaving whenever she added a task without asking. She accused him of learning that from me. He said yes. Corinne told me the silence afterward was magnificent. Mom and I spoke every week or 2. Sometimes she called. Sometimes I did. She still disguised criticism as information. I still heard requests inside sentences that didn't contain them. Once she said, "The dock rail is getting worse." I waited. She waited longer. Finally, she said, "I have asked Ray for an estimate." That sounds sensible. He says treated lumber costs more now. It does. Another pause. Then she asked, "How is your hip?" It was the first time in years she had asked about my body without needing it to lift something. "Better," I said. That was true. Kendra increased the resistance in my therapy exercises and stopped watching me as if I might sprint out of the pool to reorganize the towel rack. I could walk the switchback trail without compensating through my left side. I still hurt after long drives, in cold weather, and whenever I decided improvement was permission to overdo it. Lyle continued confiscating tools. He also gave me a key to the office. "You trust me now?" I asked. "No. I'm tired of arriving at 7:45 because you're waiting outside. I increased to 24 hours a week, no more." We put the inventory system on a shared drive, trained 2 volunteers, and created instructions simple enough that Lyle could order tomatoes without summoning a bean crisis. The retreat kept functioning on days I wasn't there. At first, I checked my email from home, then Lyle changed the password. I considered that an act of war until he gave me the new one Thursday morning. "You could have asked me not to check," I said. I did. "You could have asked more firmly." I changed the password more firmly. By spring, the pantry stayed organized without me. Curtis took over Thursday deliveries. Beth returned twice to lead trail walks and once to tell Lyle his mattresses remained an embarrassment. I left at 4. Some evenings, Denise came over and sat on the patio while Hazel rearranged the frogs. Other evenings, I was alone. Alone changed meaning slowly. It stopped sounding like an empty motel parking lot. It became one plate in the sink. Music playing because I wanted it. A book left open on the arm of the couch. My father's letters in a new waterproof container beneath the flag shelf. I kept his unfinished letter in the top drawer of my desk. I never finished the sentence for him. Mom asked once whether I would send her a copy. I said not yet. She accepted the answer badly, but she accepted it. She mailed me Dad's blue suit, his dress shoes, the electric razor, and the 3 neckties. She did not send the cribbage board. Her note said, "Owen has that." I thought it should stay where someone plays. The suit fit nobody. I donated it to a veterans clothing program after keeping one brown button from the cuff. That decision took 3 months. Dad's 72nd birthday approached without a family dinner on my calendar. The carrot cake recipe remained clipped to my refrigerator, stained with frosting. I baked another. This one rose evenly. Lyle said it lacked character. Denise told him to eat around the competence. Mom made carrot cake too. She sent a photograph from the Blue Heron breakfast room. Hers leaned. I wrote, "Dad would have liked it." She replied. He would have said both were perfect and eaten yours. That was probably true. The week after his birthday, Owen called. "Can you meet me Saturday?" he asked. "Where?" "There's a public pier near you. Miller Lake." "I know it." "Sunrise? That's specific." "Yes." "Is Mom coming?" "No." "Does she know?" "No." I sat at my kitchen table, looking at the last of the carrot cake beneath its glass cover. "What is this about?" "I need to give you something." "What?" "I'd rather show you." I almost refused. The old version of me would have agreed because his voice sounded strained. The newer version did not confuse concern with obedience. "Are you in danger?" "No." "Do you need money?" "No." "Is this about the motel?" "No." Then Saturday. He was waiting beside the pier at 6:10 with 2 coffees and Dad's cribbage board tucked beneath one arm. Morning fog lay across Miller Lake. The park lamps were still on, pale circles along the walking path. Owen wore his marina jacket and Corinne's knitted hat, though he denied it was hers. "You said you weren't mailing that," I said. "I didn't." He handed me the board. The wooden surface was scratched where Dad tapped his cards. Inside, the pegs rattled. 2 blue, 2 red. I held it against my chest. "Thank you. That's not why I asked you here." He reached into his jacket and removed a small black velvet pouch. A sealed plastic packet rested inside. I knew before he said anything. My breath stopped. "The funeral home had keepsake pouches," he said. "The morning of the service, I asked the director to put some aside. I thought Mom might want them later." "Does she know?" "No." "You told me she scattered all of him." "I know." "Mom told me." "I know. You let her." "Yes." The pier shifted beneath me, though the water was still. "How long have you had this?" "Since the funeral." "Where?" "In the workshop, behind the drawer in Dad's workbench." Corinne didn't find it with the box. I moved it before she started cleaning. "Why didn't you tell me when you brought the letters?" "Because I'd already arrived with one confession and a dead man's paperwork. Because I was afraid you'd think I saved them to make myself feel better." "Did you?" "At first." The answer hurt less than a lie. He looked across the lake. "I couldn't pour all of him off that dock without you," he said. I stood behind Mom with the pouch in my pocket. I kept telling myself I was saving your part. My part. "I know how that sounds." "No, you don't." "Probably not." He offered me the pouch. I didn't take it. The fog moved between the trees on the opposite shore. Somewhere beneath the pier, a fish broke the surface and vanished. "What do you want me to do?" I asked. "Nothing. You drove 600 miles. So did you. We've had this conversation. I'm giving it back." "Back to who?" He looked at the pouch. "To the person who should have had a choice." That was different. I took it. The weight was almost nothing. "Does Corinne know?" I asked. "Yes." "What did she say?" "That if I made this about forgiveness, she'd push me off the pier. I like her." "I do too." We stood without speaking. Finally, Owen pointed toward a bench at the far end. "I'll wait there. You don't want to come? This isn't mine. Dad was your father. I had the funeral." He walked away before I could answer. I went to the end of the pier alone. Dad had wanted the blue Heron Lake at sunset. All 4 of us in the aluminum boat. That version was gone. Mom had chosen a crowded morning. Owen had chosen silence. The Army had chosen the speed of my return. Dad had chosen not to tell me he was dying. This lake belonged to none of them. Sunlight began to thin the fog. I opened the pouch. "I'm here," I said. It was not enough to say. It was all I had. I told Dad I was angry. I told him the second Kate came out better. I told him Owen fixed boats and Mom hired Bev, and the dock rail was still leaning because nobody had died from a leaning rail. Then I released the ashes over the water. They fell quietly. No wind carried them back. No music started. The lake took what I gave it and remained a lake. I stood until the last pale trace disappeared. When I turned, Owen was waiting at the far end of the pier beside the bench. He did not wave. He did not call my name or ask whether I was all right. He let me decide the distance. I walked toward him with Dad's cribbage board beneath my arm, not toward the motel, not toward the role they had saved for me, not because guilt had called and measured how quickly I answered. I went because my brother was there, and this time I chose where I returned.